Chapter 117. Thump thump thump. In the empty and deep tunnel, a group of people was walking slowly. The leader was the wood-leaf root leader Shimura Danzo, who was struggling with the 3 generations just now. And this is the secret passage leading to the wood-leaf root base. After walking for a long time, they finally saw the end of the dark passage. It was a huge underground space, and a road was circling the walls of the underground space. And every once in a while, a door would appear, and there was a nameplate on it to indicate where the door leads. Danzo didn't pay attention to the ninjas who occasionally passed by along the way and went straight to his office at the end of the road. Danzo put aside the crutch in his hand, and a follower very cleverly took off the white Haori coat on his body. Danzo sat in his seat, and the ninjas who followed behind Danzo also stood in front of Danzo's desk, waiting for Danzo's orders. This time, everyone did a good job. We were able to explore the secrets of the Uchiha, and at the same time, we were able to verify the authenticity of the information. Danzo looked at the people standing in front of him, and his usually tense face slightly relaxed, and there was even a trace of gratification on his face. The ninjas heard Danzo's praise and felt warm in their hearts. We didn't achieve Sama's goal, we are really ashamed. The leader of the ninjas suddenly knelt on the ground and apologized to Danzo. But Danzo shook his head. You are not wrong, I have too many enemies. Even if there is accurate information, there are still people who want to go against me. I don't blame you, you can go down to the reward and punishment office to receive your own rewards. Sama, not only the leader of the ninjas, but the rest of the ninjas also knelt on the ground at this moment. Obviously, they were a little emotional. Okay, we are all people who have experienced the ups and downs of life. It's a bit shameful to act like this. You can leave now. Don't take this setback to heart. Our root exists to protect the wood leaf in the dark. As long as you complete our mission seriously, that will be enough. Dealing with the higher-ups is my business. Even if I fail, it's my fault. Danzo waved his hand and dismissed the root ninjas. It has to be said that Danzo can lead such a group of root ninjas. His charisma was unquestionable. Danzo, who took the initiative to take responsibility for his mistakes, was indeed worthy of Root's ninjas to do their best for him. When all the ninjas left Danzo's office, Danzo waved to a corner of his room. A ninja walked out from the shadows and half-knelt in front of Danzo. Lord Danzo, what can I do for you? Danzo touched his scarred chin, thought for a while and said, how's the progress on Sky's side? In the past 3 years, Nangongja has been occasionally going to the Woodleaf School to give lessons to the children there. After that, he will stay at home. But according to Sky's observation, Nangongja's strength seems to have increased again. I once sent a Hyuga ninja to investigate Nangongja. Whether it is the energy in his body or the vitality of his body, Nangongja is now standing on the edge of the Kage level. Hearing the report of his subordinate, Danzo couldn't help but chuckle twice. I didn't expect that the chess pieces that I arranged occasionally in the past really played a role. Since Sky is here, Nangongja will be our hidden strength. When the time is right, he can become a sharp sword that can cut through the thorns for us. After Danzo finished speaking, the bodyguard who came out from the shadows didn't dare to speak casually. Danzo's office returned to silence again, only the sound of Danzo tapping his fingertips from time to time could be heard. You go and inform Itachi Uchiha to report to me after this mission is over. I have something to say to him. After a long silence, Danzo said to his bodyguard. Yes. After the bodyguard responded, he once again walked back to the shadows where he came out from. Only a few slight mechanical sounds proved that the bodyguard has left. Yuan Fei, oh Yuan Fei, you are really old. If you were young, whether it was the Uchiha's movement or the Hyuga's dissatisfaction, how could you care about it? Look at you now, you are so timid, let me help you make a decision. If you can't make up your mind, then you should retire from the position of Hokage. In the empty office, only Danzo was left, silently talking to himself. Danzo's low and firm voice echoed in the office. In Nangong's house, in Mashiro's room. Mashiro was holding a pen and writing something in a small book in front of him. Sigh. After stopping writing, Mashiro threw the pen in his hand to the side. He also let out a soft sigh, a little sad and helpless. What's more strange is that the words in front of Mashiro's book that were clearly visible just now quietly disappeared. Only a blank page was left, under the light, reflecting a pale yellow light. Mashiro, eat. Mashiro's door was suddenly knocked, followed by Nangong's voice calling Mashiro to eat. Mashiro looked at the book in front of him, reached out to close it and put it in a box, then turned around and replied. I'm coming. Nangongja went to the living room. Nangong Ro and Little Linger, who just finished a mission, were all sitting at the dining table. But the food was not touched at all. Obviously they were waiting for Mashiro to arrive to eat together. Okay, what are you waiting for me for? Let's just eat. Mashiro glanced at Nangongja. Naturally he knew that Nangongja invited him to eat together, so he rolled his eyes at Nangongja. Nangongja noticed Mashiro rolling his eyes at him, so he awkwardly scratched the back of his head. Then he hurriedly changed the topic, looked at Little Linger and said. Little Linger, did the mission go smoothly this time? Little Linger looked at Nangongja, then looked at Mashiro and couldn't help but laugh. Brother Nangong, your ability to change the topic is really bad. I'm in the same team as Uchiha Yuri Koyuri, who is the top student in our class. It's just a simple mission like clearing a river. Yuri Koyuri and I can already walk on water, so naturally it wasn't difficult. After being criticized by Little Linger, Nangongja felt even more embarrassed. He could only smile embarrassedly. Okay, I knew our Little Linger is the best. Then he reached out his hand and slowly stroked Little Linger's head. Little Linger turned her head away in disdain, but her eyes revealed unconcealable happiness. Chapter 118. Itachi Uchiha was very puzzled. He was obviously an Umbu subordinate of Hokage, but when he finished the task of leaving the village and handed over some procedures, suddenly a Root Umbu came to him and said that the leader of Root, Shimura Danzo, wanted to see him. Itachi Uchiha really couldn't figure out the reason. But Danzo is also one of the most respected leaders of Woodleaf. As a ninja subordinate of Woodleaf, Itachi felt that he should go and see Danzo. So Itachi Uchiha also took a piece of black cloth, and under the leadership of the Root Ninja, he went to the underground base of Root. After Itachi's blindfold was removed, he slightly adapted to it. Itachi saw a figure sitting opposite him. Half of his face was covered with bandages, and one of his hands was also wrapped in bandages hanging around his neck. Itachi recognized this person at a glance. He is the leader of Woodleaf Root, Shimura Danzo. As a ninja from a big family, Itachi is naturally very polite. Half kneeling on the ground, he slightly lowered his head and said to Danzo sitting opposite him. I don't know why Danzo-sama summoned me, a ninja of Hokage's Umbu. Although his attitude was respectful, and his tone was soft. But these words were a bit sarcastic. In particular, the words, Umbu under Hokage's direct command, were heavily emphasized. Why are you looking for you? Don't you know what your own family has done? When Danzo heard Itachi's words, he coldly snorted, and a powerful momentum instantly suppressed Itachi's body. In the momentum, there was a strong murderous aura that can't be ignored, which directly put Itachi under great pressure. Family? I don't know what my Uchiha family has done. Although under great pressure, Itachi gritted his teeth and said such a sentence from his mouth. As a member of the Uchiha clan, Itachi valued his identity as an Uchiha very much. Someone insulted the Uchiha family in front of him. Even if that person was the leader of the Woodleaf Roots, Shimura Danzo, Itachi would not give in so easily. You are the eldest son of the Uchiha clan's patriarch, Uchiha Fugaku. Don't you know what your family has done? Danzo said as he grabbed a document from his desk and threw it in front of Itachi Uchiha. At the same time, Itachi Uchiha withdrew his aura a little so that he could move his body a little and read the documents in front of him. Itachi Uchiha glared fiercely at Shimura Danzo in front of him, but only received a cold snort from Danzo. He picked up the documents in front of him and flipped through a few pages with slight anger. But after flipping through them, Itachi Uchiha's eyes widened as if they were about to open. He could only close the documents in his hand and carefully read from the first page. Danzo-sama, this kind of document. Do you want my Uchiha clan to end our lives in the wood leaf roots? Itachi Uchiha said as he released his aura. It was as if he wanted to compete with Danzo. Whether the things in these documents are true or false, you will know when you go home. Why are you worried that I am lying to you? Just go home. If this document says that your Uchiha clan has colluded with foreign enemies and attempted to rebel, you can come and find me. It's not impossible for you to take my head. Danzo looked at Itachi, who was half kneeling in front of him. He actually said that if Itachi found out that he was suspicious, he could take his head. This made Itachi a little shocked. Could it be that his family really did such a thing? Itachi couldn't help but ask himself in his heart. In the end, he realized that his father, Uchiha Fugaku, would sometimes do some strange things. After he found out and asked, Uchiha Fugaku didn't say anything and just casually found a reason to send him away. Since that is the case, I will take my leave. Danzo-sama. Itachi Uchiha stood up and bowed slightly to Danzo. Danzo waved his hand and ordered his subordinates to put a mask on Itachi Uchiha's face. Then, he led him out of Root's base. Ha ha ha, this nail has been planted. The document I gave you is not fake at all. Yuan Fei always told me how loyal Itachi Uchiha is to Woodleaf. Then let me see how trustworthy he is. Danzo wasn't afraid that Itachi Uchiha would bring this document back home and report to Woodleaf about the Uchiha clan's rebellion. This was because the things mentioned in this document were just some random things that were purposely speculated about the Uchiha clan's rebellion. However, after Itachi Uchiha saw this document, Itachi Uchiha obviously wouldn't just investigate these random things. These things were hidden in the shadows. As a member of the Black Ops, Itachi Uchiha naturally had the ability to follow this trail to find the truth. Moreover, with the Uchiha clan's temperament, even if they were suspicious of Woodleaf because of this document, they wouldn't do anything. In Danzo's opinion, among the current high-ranking members of the Uchiha clan, other than Uchiha Fugaku, who was a bit scheming, the rest? A bunch of idiots whose muscles had grown into their brains. Compared to a sly old fox like Danzo, the difference was huge. Give this Uchiha boy some time, let him carefully investigate his own family, and let him do a thorough investigation of his own family. Let this naive little brat see clearly what kind of people his family is. Danzo looked at Itachi's figure that was gradually fading away and said slowly. After leaving Root's base, Itachi once again lifted his blindfold and stood in a slightly remote corner of Woodleaf. Looking around slightly, Itachi identified the direction and walked towards his own home. In just a moment, Itachi Uchiha arrived at the Uchiha clan's territory in Woodleaf. Several Uchiha clan ninjas in charge of patrolling also saw Itachi Uchiha's figure at this moment. They stepped forward and saluted. "Hello Master Itachi, you've worked hard on the mission." If it was in the past, the gentle Itachi might have exchanged greetings with these clan members. But now, Itachi's mood was uneasy. He directly walked past these patrolling Uchiha clansmen. Looking at Itachi Uchiha's back, several Uchiha clansmen also began to discuss. What's wrong with Master Itachi? We already greeted him, why is he acting like this? Okay, Master Itachi is famous for his gentle temperament. Maybe he has an urgent matter to see the clan leader? Why are you sulking here? That's right, Master Itachi has always been good to us. Maybe there really is an urgent matter this time. The few of them chatted casually and finally came to a consensus. They continued to patrol the clan's territory. After all, this is a serious matter. Chapter 119. Itachi strode to the courtyard of his home and met many clansmen along the way. After these people greeted Itachi, Itachi still did not respond to any of them, which made them very puzzled. Just as Itachi was about to walk to his home, a childish voice sounded from behind. "Brother Itachi, you're back? You've been gone for a long time, Sasuke missed you so much." Itachi finally stopped and turned around to look at the child who was talking to him and hitting me. Black hair, a pair of black pupils, and a face somewhat similar to Itachi. The person who just spoke was Itachi's younger brother, the second son of the Uchiha clan's head Uchiha Fugaku, and the second young master of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Sasuke. When Itachi turned around, Sasuke threw himself into Itachi's arms. He hugged him tightly and said, "Brother Itachi, you lied, you said that this mission was very simple. You can come back in half a month, but now it's been 2 months since you came back from outside." Looking at his younger brother, Uchiha Itachi's anger and resentment disappeared in an instant. He lowered his voice and squatted down so that his eyes were on the same level as Uchiha Sasuke's, and said, "Uchiha Sasuke, it's brother's fault, the mission is a little troublesome. It was delayed for a few days, but after this mission last night, I can rest for a long time. Brother will train with Sasuke, okay?" Sasuke heard his brother's words, but he didn't pay attention to the training part behind, but asked anxiously, "Brother, your mission is very troublesome, do you have it? If you're injured, we have to go home and find Mom. Mom is amazing, she cured my knee last time." Listening to his brother's concern for him, Itachi Uchiha's heart was also warm. He touched his brother's head and said, "It's okay, brother is very powerful. How come you have it?" In fact, Itachi was indeed injured in this mission, and the injury was not light. Now, he relied on this Sharingan to gain the strength of a special Jonin. This time, Itachi went to assassinate a person who was protected by a Jonin team. Although he finally completed the mission successfully, he also paid a big price. It was also because of the injury that affected the journey. He rested outside the village for nearly a month before returning to the ninja village. But how could Itachi say that he was injured to his brother, which made Sasuke more worried? "That's right. I know that brother is the best, the mission can be completed easily." Little Sasuke nodded vigorously, as if he was trying to increase the credibility of his words. Itachi looked at his little brother and carried him on his back. "Let's go, brother hasn't carried you for a long time. This time, I'll carry you home." Hearing Itachi's words, Sasuke also leaned over Itachi's back with a satisfied look. Looking at Sasuke's smiling face, Itachi's heart sank. Although the information Danzo showed him didn't have conclusive evidence to prove that Uchiha clan colluded with foreign enemies in an attempt to subvert Woodleaf's rule. But Itachi was also a person who had seen the wind and waves, although these clues weren't obvious. But combined together, it can still be seen that Uchiha clan's plan was not small, which has threatened Woodleaf's rule. As a member of the Umbu, Itachi naturally knew that Woodleaf has the power that Uchiha clan can't stop. As long as Woodleaf is willing to pay the price, it's not impossible to destroy Uchiha clan, who now has no peak power like Hokage. "Father, how can you be so greedy? How long after the war, you want to plot the entire foundation of Woodleaf?" Sasuke, who was born after the war, Itachi really didn't want them to go through such a cruel baptism of blood and fire. I will protect you well." Itachi's mouth whispered softly, his voice was so low that even Sasuke, who was lying on his sad side, didn't hear it. But the promise was very serious. For this promise, Itachi can do anything, as long as he can protect his brother. Even if Itachi had already walked to his house, even if he was carrying his brother, Itachi still quickly arrived at the door of his house. After gently knocking on the door, Itachi opened the door. Uchiha Mikoto also heard the sound of her door being opened the door and saw her 2 sons at the door. She didn't know when Sasuke fell asleep on Itachi's back. He made a slight snoring sound, and his nose twitched from time to time. "Mother, I'm back," Itachi respectfully said to his mother, and at the same time, gently put down the sleeping Sasuke on his back. Uchiha Mikoto picked up Sasuke and walked inside the house. Can't you be so polite to me? Can't you learn from your brother, and act like a spoiled child in front of your mother?" Looking at her eldest son who has always been very calm, Uchiha Mikoto couldn't help but say, "It's right to respect for mother," Itachi still said with a serious face. "Oh, my child is really not cute." Mikoto pouted her mouth and whispered slightly. With Itachi's hearing, he could naturally hear what his mother said. But after a slight smile, he didn't pay attention to it. Walking to the living room of his house, Uchiha Fugaku was also sitting on the tatami, reading a newspaper. After seeing Itachi come back, he also said, "Oh. Itachi is back. How was the mission? Did it go smoothly?" Hearing his father's question, Itachi immediately replied, "Thank you for your concern, father. Although there were some troubles, they were solved. The mission was completed smoothly." "Good, that's good. As a member of the Uchiha clan, no matter what kind of difficulties, we must face them bravely. You did a good job." Uchiha Fugaku stood up, walked to Itachi's side, and reached out his hand to pat his son's shoulder. Then he went to his wife, Uchiha Mikoto, looked at the sleeping Sasuke and said, "Go get the family's best medicine, and send it to Itachi later." Hearing her husband's words, Mikoto didn't care about sending Sasuke back to his room. She looked at her son anxiously and asked, "Itachi, you're injured? Is it serious? Did you take care of it? Go to your room and wait, mom will treat you after putting Sasuke down." Mikoto's relationship with Shina Kushina is not bad, and she also has some foundation in medical ninjutsu. So she can still treat injuries. Hearing that Itachi was injured, she was eager to treat her child. Just a moment ago, she said that her child wasn't cute enough, but now she cared more about her child than anyone else. At this moment, the sentimental mother's eyes were covered with a thin layer of mist. Itachi's heart was touched, and at the same time, he took a deep look at Uchiha Fugaku who was standing next to his mother. Chapter 120. Uchiha Mikoto put Sasuke in the room, covered him with a quilt, and walked to Itachi's door. Uchiha Mikoto reached out and gently knocked on her son's door. "Itachi, mommy will come in and check your wounds." But after waiting for a long time, there was still no response. She hurriedly pushed open Uchiha's door and saw Itachi lying on the ground. "Itachi, are you okay?" This scared Mikoto, and she immediately ran to her son's side. One of her hands was covered with a glowing green chakra ball, and gently covered Itachi's body. The gentle nature of the medical chakra slowly penetrated Itachi's body, and Uchiha Mikoto could clearly see her son's physical condition. Internal examination, there are minor injuries, but he has almost recovered, and will be fine after a few days of rest. Meridian examination, there are signs of swelling, which may be due to a large amount of chakra passing through the meridians. It's not serious, but he needs to rest for a period of time to adjust. Spiritual power examination, the spiritual power activity is low, which may be caused by a large amount of genjutsu or excessive use of genjutsu. The specific situation needs to be further examined by professionals. Uchiha Mikoto's mouth faintly murmured Uchiha's physical condition, and her eyes were very serious and slightly anxious. After checking Itachi's internal organs, meridians, and spiritual power, she found that there were some minor problems, and there was no possibility of causing a ninja of Itachi's level to faint. So Mikoto closed her eyes, and after silently saying, "Open," in her heart, her originally dark eyes now turned into a somewhat dark red, and the three tomos slowly rotated in her irises. As the wife of the head of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Mikoto was not only a beautiful vase with a cute face, on the contrary, Uchiha Mikoto was also a genius when she was young. It was also because of Uchiha Mikoto and Uchiha Fugaku's talent that a genius with infinite potential like Itachi was born. Even little Sasuke, although only 3 years old, his physical fitness, meridian's width, flexibility, and toughness are far beyond his peers. The Magatama in Mikoto's eyes spun faster and faster, leaving behind afterimages that almost formed a circle in her eyes. Mikoto felt the changes in chakra in her body. Her right hand turned into a sword and pressed against Itachi's forehead. Streams of eye power flowed into Itachi's body. After a short while, Mikoto removed her finger from Itachi's forehead. Looking at Mikoto's appearance, drops of sweat were dripping down her face. The pair of Sharingan that was originally bright red in color has been forced to converge at this moment. Mikoto's expression couldn't help but become tired, and her face paled. Ugh! Itachi Uchiha, who had fallen to the ground, finally regained consciousness. He looked at his mother in front of him and couldn't help but ask, "Mother, what happened to you? Why do you look so bad?" Looking at her eldest son, Mikoto put her hand on Itachi's head and gently stroked it. "Mother is fine, it's just that I consumed a lot of energy just now. When I came to find you, you had already fallen to the ground. After I checked you, I found that your eye power is seriously lacking. It should be because you overdrew the power of your Sharingan when you were fighting someone, so I used a secret technique to separate a part of my eye power for you so that you can wake up as soon as possible." Listening to his mother's words, Itachi's heart suddenly felt very uncomfortable. In order to save him, his mother actually used such a dangerous secret technique. As a member of the Uchiha clan, Itachi Uchiha naturally knew how dangerous this kind of eye power transmission is. If one is not careful, if one is lucky, the Sharingan will degenerate, if one is unlucky, one will directly lose both eyes. How can he let his mother do such a thing? "Mother, you don't have to use such a dangerous method to save me. As long as you properly recuperate, there will always be a way to make up for the loss of eye power. But if something happens to you, it won't be able to make up for it, right?" Mikoto looked at Itachi, who was looking at her with a worried expression, and smiled. Although her face was a bit pale, but a unique feminine radiance of motherhood slowly emitted from her, "I know that the loss of eye power can be slowly made up for. But when I look at the pain my child is going through, I see that my child is frowning. As a mother, even if I know that I am doing something pointless and dangerous, I must do it." Mikoto reached out her hand and stroked her child's hair. "My little Itachi has been very obedient since he was a child, very sensible. Many people have told Mother that my little Itachi's talent is far beyond ordinary people, and that he will be the pride of the Uchiha in the future. But Mother doesn't want my little Itachi to become so powerful. I have even prayed countless times to the heavens to let my child become an ordinary person, because if my child becomes powerful, he will be forced to become a sharp knife for the Uchiha. Rather than that, it is better to be mediocre. But the heavens still didn't listen to my pleas. My little Itachi is indeed a rare genius." Just like that, he graduated early, became a genin, rushed to the battlefield, promoted to a chunin, and finally joined the Umbu. "You have indeed made the Uchiha proud, but in contrast, you have deep and shallow scars on your body, and your soul is filled with cracks. Since childhood, my little Itachi has been a kind person. Whenever he sees an injured animal, he will beg me to bandage it. Whenever he sees someone in trouble, he will do his best to help them. Just like now, he is being forced to take another person's life. My little Itachi's heart is filled with helplessness. Mother knows very well. Mother really doesn't want my son to struggle in this kind of torment," Mikoto said. Tears flowed out from her eyes. She hugged her child in her arms and said these words with some emotion. "Mama, Ma." Itachi was just about to call Mikoto Mao-sama, but halfway through, he changed it to Mother, which he rarely called out. Mother is here." Hearing Itachi's voice, Mikoto also responded. "Mother, no matter what will happen to me, I will protect my mother and brother. If anyone wants to hurt you, I will not let them go. Even if it is my father. Itachi silently added such a sentence in his heart, but no one knew. But this kind of resolution is also engraved in the depths of Itachi's heart. Letting go of her hands, Mikoto wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes. She said with a smile, all right, crying like this in front of your own child. Mother will go out first, I have already checked your injuries. It is not a big problem, you will be fine after a good rest. After saying that, Mikoto walked out of Itachi's room. Weasel was left alone in his room, deep in thought. Chapter 121. In the Uchiha family's territory, Itachi was strolling alone. Although he was strolling, once one studied Itachi's route, it was not difficult to find that Itachi was slowly walking towards a warehouse where the Uchiha clan usually stored vegetables and food. Looking at this place that was usually used to store ordinary food for the clan, Itachi's brows slightly wrinkled. The guards here were the same as before. They were selected from the relatively old people of the Uchiha clan who were no longer ninjas. Two old people who seemed to be around 50 years old were sitting at the entrance of the warehouse at this moment. They seemed to be chatting about something. However, with his eyesight, Itachi found some talismans hidden in some secret corners of the walls of the warehouse. Waves of slight chakra waves were released from them from time to time. They resonated with each other and formed a barrier that surrounded the entire warehouse. Sure enough. Father has an ulterior motive. The barrier was actually a very simple sensing barrier. If there was anything different, it was just that the fluctuations of an ordinary sensing barrier were weaker. Looks like I have to give it a try. Itachi thought in his heart and his feet moved. He strode towards the entrance of the warehouse and the barrier was immediately triggered. Several auras instantly rose from the surrounding courtyards and moved around several times. The person who released the aura had already appeared in front of Itachi. Who dares to trespass into the Uchiha clan's warehouse? TCH, let this uncle teach this. Master Itachi a good lesson. The person in charge of guarding the warehouse seemed to have a slightly bad temper. He didn't even see who was standing in front of him and already began to speak ruthlessly. But halfway through his words, he naturally saw that the person in front of him was actually the eldest son of the clan head, Itachi Uchiha. He could only bow to Itachi Uchiha with an embarrassed expression. Some of the clansmen behind the Uchiha who were responsible for guarding the warehouse also followed suit and bowed to Itachi. But then, the leader looked at Itachi and asked, I don't know why Itachi-sama came to such an ordinary warehouse, is there something you need? Itachi smiled and said, it's nothing, I just came to take a look. But with your strength, you actually came to protect such an ordinary warehouse. It seems that our Uchiha family really values these grains. Although Itachi had a smile on his face, he still emphasized the words, normal storage, when he spoke. Master Itachi, please don't make things difficult for an errand boy like me. I was only transferred here according to orders. It's my boss's orders. It's not something I can choose. Who else could become the superior of the Uchiha clan? It could only be Uchiha Fugaku, the head of the Uchiha clan, or the elders of the Uchiha clan. The leader said this because he wanted Itachi to know that these things were arranged by people at his father's level. Don't meddle in it casually. Otherwise, those in high positions may not necessarily care about Itachi's identity as the young master of the family. But what if I want to go in and take a look today? Originally, the leader thought that with Itachi's intelligence, he naturally wouldn't do such a thing. But no one expected that Itachi not only didn't retreat at this moment, but also unscrupulously exuded his aura. A surging chakra wave was emitted from Itachi's body from time to time. Master Itachi, although you have become a special jonin at a young age, your talent is extraordinary. But sometimes talent can't beat time, please retreat as soon as possible. The leader of the guards also took a step forward at this moment. The aura he exuded was the strength of a jonin. Looking at the leader of the guards, Itachi also thought in his heart. Although he is not weaker than an ordinary jonin, most of the jonins of the Uchiha clan have awakened at least 2 Tomo Sharingan. And to be able to be directly commanded by the higher-ups to guard the warehouse, then this jonin will at least have 3 Tomo Sharingan. The only time he defeated a jonin was by relying on his Sharingan and a bit of luck. So Itachi also took a step back and put away his aura. Looking at the leader of the guards, he said, "I'm just curious, and I want to take a look. Since you don't want me to go in and take a look, it's okay. Goodbye." After saying that, he didn't pay attention to the expressions of these guards. Itachi walked straight away, but the leader of the guards still stretched out his hand and called one of his men and said to him, "It seems that Master Itachi has noticed something. You go now and inform the patriarch and explain the situation clearly." "Yes." After the subordinate responded, he jumped up from the eaves and rushed to the place where Uchiha Fugaku was handling the internal affairs of the Uchiha clan. Itachi didn't care about the watchers' reactions and just walked straight in one direction. He only hoped to get out of the range of the leader of the guards as soon as possible. But suddenly, in an alley beside him, an arm pulled Itachi into the alley. As a member of the Woodleaf Umbu, Itachi's reaction speed is naturally amazing. In an instant, he took out a kunai from the ninja bag behind him and wanted to fight back. Crack! The sound of metal colliding suddenly sounded, and the 2 kunai collided with each other. "Brother Shursui? Aren't you?" Seeing the face of the person in front of him, Itachi couldn't help but exclaim. The person who came is Uchiha Shursui, known as Body Flicker Shursui. But Shursui's current situation seems to be very wrong. He only opened one of his eyes. "Shoo. Don't be so excited. Come with me." For some reason, Uchiha Shursui, who is usually very talkative, didn't say anything to Itachi this time. Instead, he took Itachi's hand and walked into the depths of the alley. Uchiha Shursui stretched out a hand and gently knocked one of the bricks on the wall at the end of the alley. A dark hole appeared in the left corner of the road. "Come with me, I'll tell you everything you want to know." Shursui looked at the hole and said to Itachi. Itachi also nodded. Shursui is the person who took care of him since he was a child like his own brother. Not to mention that Itachi really wants to find out what happened to the Uchiha clan. But looking at Shursui's current state, Itachi can't just leave him alone. So Itachi followed Shursui into the hole. Under the hole is a passage, leading to a basement. After entering the basement, Shursui didn't greet Itachi Uchiha, who he regarded as a younger brother. Instead, he picked up a flint and lit an oil lamp in the basement. The dim light also brought some light and warmth to the dark and damp basement. Chapter 122. Brother Shursui. Looking at Shursui sitting quietly in front of him, Itachi couldn't help but say. "Danzo found you, didn't he?" Itachi was surprised. He didn't tell anyone that he met Danzo. And when he returned to the village, he was taken away by Danzo's men after going through the formalities. With the quality of root ninjas, they would never leave any clues for anyone to find them. How did Shursui know? "Brother Shursui, don't talk nonsense. I just returned to Woodleaf. How could I?" Itachi wanted to say something to cover up the fact that Danzo found him. After all, it involves the Uchiha clan's rebellion. It's not clear whether Uchiha Shursui is on Woodleaf's side or Uchiha's side. It's irrational to say the truth rashly. But halfway through, Itachi's words were abruptly swallowed back by Shursui's gaze. "I know, Danzo should have given you a document that suspected the Uchiha clan's rebellion, and then began to instigate you to work for Woodleaf, right?" Shursui put away his gaze that was full of coercion and smiled a little self-deprecatingly. "Why would you?" Itachi couldn't help but ask, but he thought that he should have discovered the source of Danzo's document. "This document? Even if you didn't send it to Root, at least you verified the authenticity of the document for Root, right?" Hearing Itachi's words, the smile on Shursui's face became wider and more self-deprecating. "Yes, this document was given to me by Danzo. He told me a lot, although I didn't waver at that time. But little by little, I couldn't help but investigate. Speaking of this, Shisui took a deep look at Itachi, as if he was looking at himself when he was investigating the truth. The warehouse you just went to is actually above this basement. I secretly built this basement with earth release, and then used some talismans to make the guards above unable to perceive the existence of this basement. Do you know what I found when I sneaked in during the investigation? There are tens of thousands of explosive tags in the whole warehouse. If these explosive tags are scattered in important positions, it can directly paralyze the entire operation system of Woodleaf, and the loss is even more serious than when the Nine Tails attacked the village. So I reported my findings to Danzo, hoping that Danzo will pass it to the 3 generations, so that they can stop the ambitions of the higher-ups in time. Hearing Shisui's words. Explosive tag is actually equivalent to a high explosive tags. The power of 10,000 explosive tags can't even surpass the power of Spyudama's Bijadamat. Shisui Nii-san, you did the right thing. We can't let the Uchiha destroy Konoha. Itachi said to Shisui. In Itachi's mind, Konoha and the Uchiha are such a community of interests. If they work together, they will benefit, and if they don't, they will lose. So Shisui's can be said to be saving the Uchiha clan, and Itachi thinks it's the right thing to do. Huh. Shisui smiled when he heard this, and said to Itachi, Itachi, although you have been very mature since you were a child, but some things are still too simple. Of course, I am the same. Thinking of people as too kind, that's why I ended up in this situation. With that, Shisui put his face in front of Itachi's. So that Itachi can clearly see his face, and also see his closed right eye. A trace of blood oozed out from the gap of his closed right eye. Because the amount of blood was very small, and Shisui has been deliberately hiding his right eye from the alley to the basement, so it was not discovered by Itachi. But this time, Itachi can see it clearly. Shisui's right eye is no longer in his eye socket. Shisui, how did your eye become like this? Itachi hurriedly asked anxiously. Shisui is like a brother to him, but one of his eyes is missing. Someone must have deliberately dug out Shisui's right eye. Such a situation made the usually calm and steady Itachi can't help but ignite a burst of anger in his heart, and he wants to take revenge on the person who hurt Shisui. The person who dug out my right eye, you know him. It's the leader of the Woodleaf Root, Shimura Danzo. Shisui's words are powerful, but they are like a heavy hammer hitting Itachi's head. Danzo? Itachi can't help but exclaim the name of Shimura Danzo. Many people think that the limit of the Sharingan is the 3-tomo Sharingan, and even many clansmen think so. But the limit of the Sharingan is far from this. Above the 3-tomo Sharingan, there is an eye that is close to the God's Eye, Mangekyo Sharingan. Shisui looked at Itachi with his remaining left eye, which is the 3-tomo state of the Uchiha clan's Sharingan. But in the red Sharingan, the tomo spun faster and faster, and gradually merged together to form the shape of a 4-cornered pinwheel. Reaching out his hand and pointing to his eye, Shisui said to Itachi, "This is my Mangekyo Sharingan." Mangekyo Sharingan? Itachi's mouth also muttered this new state of the Sharingan. The right eye I lost was also a Mangekyo Sharingan, but it was taken away by Danzo. When Danzo took out my right eye, although my mind was fuzzy, I still vaguely heard some news. Although Danzo really wants to quell the rebellion of the Uchiha, Danzo's ultimate goal is to harvest our Uchiha's Kekkei Genkai, the Sharingan. Shisui said these cruel facts, and Itachi's idea of using Danzo's power to quell the Uchiha's rebellion was completely eliminated. After all, Danzo doesn't care whether the Uchiha clan can survive or not. Instead, he wants the Uchiha clan to die, so that he can harvest more of the Uchiha clan's unique Sharingan. With such a purpose, how can he help Itachi to save the Uchiha clan? I also knew about this. That's why I tried my best to escape from Root's base. But I just happened to see Root's people take you to their base. I thought that Danzo will deceive you just like how he deceived me. I just want to tell you, whether it's the Uchiha clan or Woodleaf people, don't believe him, no matter how sincere he is in front of you. And I also want to give you a gift. Gift? That's right. After saying that, Shisui stretched out his hand towards his only remaining left eye and dug it out. The bloody eye was placed in front of Itachi's eyes. My kaleidoscope's ability is a type of illusion called Koto Amatsukami. The only thing that can break this illusion is my remaining left eye. Koto Amatsukami is very scary, it can completely control a person without them knowing. Since my eyes have fallen into Danzo's hands, one day he will need to use this genjutsu. At this time, please use this eye of mine where it should be used. Chapter 123. Brother Shisui. Itachi looked at Shisui, who was standing in front of him, with a bloody scar on his handsome face. Where his eyes used to be, there were only 2 empty bone grooves left. If you really want to save the Uchiha clan, this is where we belong. In that case, you should keep this eye properly. Danzo will never let go of our Uchiha clan so easily, no matter what, no matter how bloody it is, no matter how hard it is for you to accept. You must keep the Uchiha bloodline alive, with this eye of mine, and with yourself. Shisui said very seriously, and Itachi also kept all these words in his heart. Shisui naturally saw the determination of his companion, who grew up with him, so he put his hand on Itachi's shoulder and said, "Promise me, stay strong and live. As long as you're alive, there's still hope. I entrusted my eyes to you, so I can't stay in Woodleaf anymore. Danzo will never give up on capturing me, so I have to leave temporarily. Brother Shisui, you have to take care of yourself. There's only hope if you're alive." Hearing Itachi's words, Shisui couldn't help but smile. This Itachi actually went back on his words. "Do you still need to worry about this kind of thing?" Shisui said to Itachi. But he still secretly asked himself in his heart, can he escape from Danzo's pursuit? He has lost his eyes, and the difficulty of escaping is too high. Shisui knew this, and Itachi naturally also knew this. But neither of them pointed it out. Whether it was Shisui, who was being chased by Danzo, or Itachi, who stayed in the Uchiha clan. Neither of them was 100% safe, and the two of them also faced all kinds of dangers. Now the two of them were just cheering each other on. "Okay. I'm leaving." Shisui didn't look at Itachi, instead, he turned around and walked into the shadows. After a while, he disappeared, and Itachi still stood in the same place, looking at the direction Shisui left. "Brother Shisui. If possible, you must live well." "You must live well," Itachi said softly, then turned and left the basement. The light that was lit by Shisui just now quietly went out. Lord 3 Generations. I hope to assist Woodleaf in quelling the Uchiha clan's rebellion. In the Hokage's office, Itachi was kneeling in front of the 3 generations of Hokage. "Did Danzo tell you about this?" 3 generations asked Itachi. "Yes, Danzo-sama gave me some documents. And after my own investigation, the contents of these documents are all true." Itachi didn't hide anything from the 3 generations. He directly told them about his conversation with Danzo. Looking at Itachi's face, Sandaime fell silent for a while. The Uchiha clan's intention to rebel was indeed a tricky matter because it involved a lot of Woodleaf interests. And how to appease it was also a problem. If only the main culprit was killed, it's hard to guarantee that some of the Uchiha clan's clansmen would hate it and breed a new rebellion. But if there was a massacre, it would lead to a counterattack by the Uchiha clan, which would greatly weaken the power of Woodleaf. This was also the reason why the 3 generations opposed to directly attacking the Uchiha clan. "You go out first, I already know about the matter. If there is anything, I will look for you." 3 generations took a puff from the pipe in his hand and exhaled the smoke. He sighed and said to Itachi, "That's right. This was Itachi's choice to deal with Danzo. Since Danzo wanted to kill the Uchiha clan, then the 3 generations of Hokage who was equal or even stronger than Danzo was also dragged into the water. Once Danzo wanted to directly exterminate the Uchiha clan, then the 3 generations would be the biggest obstacle to stop Danzo from committing such an evil act. Just yesterday, the Uchiha clan received the information that the Uchiha clan's genius Uchiha Xianxia was dead and his eyes were dug out. It was this news that made Itachi determined to have a showdown with the 3 generations of Hokage. Danzo. What do you want? After Itachi left, the 3 generations sat alone in his office, feeling a little irritable. Because Danzo actually carried out such a plan behind his back that involved the Uchiha clan. Although the Uchiha clan did such a thing, the 3 generations felt that Danzo was too eager, as if he was longing for something. I just hope you don't do anything to endanger the safety of the wood leaf, otherwise I will have to personally suppress you. The 3 generations said. He couldn't help but think of his disciple Orochimaru, and his 2 disciples Jiraiya and Tsunade, who also escaped from the wood leaf. If you were still here, I wouldn't have to work so hard. Looking at the large pile of documents in front of him and all kinds of annoying things. The 3 generations couldn't help but sigh. He could only take a deep breath of his pipe and bury himself in these documents and complicated things again. Just as the 3 generations suffered from all kinds of annoying things, Itachi was immersed in the complicated situation of Xianxia's death and the Uchiha clan's rebellion. Nangongja's house also ushered in an unexpected guest. A figure wearing a mask and a short black cloak suddenly appeared in the courtyard of his house opposite Nangongja. Nangongja? The figure said to Nangongja, his tone was very low, like an emotionless machine. Umbu? Looking at the figure's dress and the mask on his face, Nangongja had a faint guess in his heart. And this kind of mechanical way of action is very similar to the root ninja that Nangongja once encountered when he cooperated with him on a mission. Would you please come with me? The figure did not care about Nangongja's guess and continued talking. Sorry, I have temporarily given up my identity as a ninja. So I won't go with you. If there's nothing else, please go back. Although Nangongja is not a root ninja, he knows very well in his heart. Anything that had to do with root was bound to involve bloody massacres and all sorts of conspiracies. And this kind of thing is exactly what Nangongja wants to avoid. It's better to avoid trouble. Nangongja bluntly refused the request of the root ninja and asked him to leave. Oh. I didn't expect Nangongjonin to have such a temper, directly ignoring the request of my root ninja. In that case, I don't know if Nangongjonin is ready to go against my root ninja's consciousness. A voice came from behind the root ninja, slightly old but with an extremely strong majestic aura. Chapter 124. The root ninja who was standing in front of Kuroto immediately stepped aside, revealing the person who just spoke behind him. His right eye was bandaged, and his right arm was also bandaged and hidden in a black coat. Although his face can't be said to be old, there are some wrinkles on it. He looks slightly younger than the 3 generations Hokage of the same generation. But his left eye has an indescribable gloominess, like the eyes of an eagle, and after being stared at, you will feel extremely uncomfortable. So it's the leader of Root, Shimura Danzo, Sama. Nangongja naturally recognized the leader of Root, who is an important part of the Wood Leaf Defense Force, Shimura Danzo, and then slightly bowed and said, "Greetings, Shimura Danzo, Sama. I don't know why Shimura Danzo, Sama sent such a small shrimp to invite me." Although he was slightly ridiculed by Nangongja, the Root Ninja who just talked to Nangongja didn't show any emotion at all. He just stood quietly beside Danzo without saying a word. But the muscles all over his body were tense, and obviously, as long as Danzo gives the order, he will rush up and fight Nangongja to the death. Small shrimp? Danzo heard Nangongja's words and smiled, and then said to Nangongja, "Yes, maybe this subordinate of mine is not your opponent in a direct confrontation. But when did my Root Ninja become the strongest in a direct confrontation?" If it's not a direct confrontation, then isn't it an assassination? Indeed, whether it's the Umbu or Root, most of the time, they carry out assassination missions. Almost no one would do such a thing in a head-on battle that caused a lot of commotion. The Umbu are supposed to fight in the dark, right? Then, what is the matter with Danzo, Sama? Nangongja doesn't want to keep arguing with Danzo about who is the strongest, because it's meaningless. Nangongja also doesn't like to pretend to be polite, so he directly told Danzo about it. He wants to know what Danzo wants to do. My purpose? Danzo stared straight at Nangongja with his left eye and said, I want you, would Leaf Jonin Nangongja to join Root. Nangongja knows that Danzo must have a purpose for looking for him. But he didn't expect that Danzo wants Nangongja to join Root. Danzo-sama, don't you think you're taking things for granted? Nangongja said, although I'm not a high-ranking person in Konoha, I still have some influence in terms of combat power. Especially since I took over Kiba Ninja School, a lot of people know about me, and Danzo-sama directly came to recruit me. A lot of people won't be happy, right? Although Woodleaf seems very peaceful, there are actually a lot of hills. These hills won't directly fight with each other, but there are still all kinds of small conflicts. Naturally, Danzo was one of the more powerful ones among these mountain peaks. Once Nangongja joins Danzo's Root, there is no doubt that Danzo's Root will have a small increase in strength. Such a small improvement is very likely to directly break the weak balance between the mountains of Konoha, and the consequences would be unimaginable. Moreover, Root is not a good place. The members of the Umbu can leave the Umbu after meeting certain requirements and getting the approval of the Umbu head. However, Nangongja has never heard of anyone leaving the Umbu after joining Root. There is no big difference between joining Root and signing a contract to sell one's body. With Nangongja's character, how can he join Root? Not happy? Danzo heard Nangongja's words, and after repeating it with a little contempt, he continued, they are not happy, what does it have to do with me? Since I became the leader of Root, I have single-handedly led this new organization to grow up. In the process, how many people's interests have been violated, how many people are unhappy? But I am still alive and well, and Root is getting stronger and stronger. Those losers are unhappy, what can they do to me? Danzo indeed has something to be proud of. Because whether it is the Umbu or some other clans, they all relied on the legacy left by their ancestors and the efforts of several generations to develop. But Danzo can be said to have started from scratch, and pulled up such a violent organization. There is no need to say more about the hardships, and Danzo's ability is naturally obvious. Danzo-sama is naturally very powerful, to be able to establish Root single-handedly. But I am just an ordinary ninja, and now I am even a little tired of being a ninja. So I asked for an indefinite leave from Hokage-sama, and if I have nothing to do, I will go to the ninja school to teach children. Although it is dull, it is also very fun. Root is very powerful, but joining Root means that I'll have to start an endless slaughter. Although I am not the kind of super strong person who can suppress the ninja world, but I think I have the ability to protect myself and my family. So, I will not join Root. Danzo-sama, please go back. Nangongja was actually speaking from the bottom of his heart. From the beginning, Nangongja practiced martial arts so that he and his sister could join Woodleaf, so that their lives would not be so difficult. Although Nangongja participated in the ninja war, he also made a lot of contributions. But that is because Woodleaf has too many powerful people on top, and he is just an ordinary chunin. If he were to make any one of them unhappy, wouldn't he and his sister be crushed to death like ants? Therefore, Nangongja fought with all his might, trying his best to accumulate merits. Little by little, Nangongja's strength became stronger. Later, with the help of Leo and banishment, he became only half a step away from Kage level. Although this strength is not enough to crush everything, it is enough to ensure the safety of several people and survive in this war-torn world. Nangongzhi spent these years perfecting his swordsmanship and accompanying his family. Nangongzhi cherishes these days very much. He does not allow anyone to disturb their peace. Even if this person is the leader of Woodleaf's root, Shimura Danzo. Nangongzhi is not afraid to fight with him. Nangongzhi. I didn't expect you to be such a man who is satisfied with the status quo. Longing for some beauty, longing for a moment of peace. But have you ever heard of a saying? After listening to Nangongzhi's words, Danzo didn't pursue the matter any further. He turned around and walked out of the door with his men. Only one sentence is still echoing in the air. The tree wants to be still, but the wind will not stop. You have joined Woodleaf and become a ninja. It means that you have stepped into a whirlpool that you will never be able to break free from. You will come to me. Chapter 125. Danzo left, but his words left a great shock in Nangongzhi's heart. Because Danzo's words were not without reason. In this chaotic world, there were too many things that were beyond one's control. Nangongzhi could be willful once, and he could be willful twice. But there would always be times when he could not solve it with his own strength. What should he do at that time? Should he continue to be so stubborn and willful? Nangongzhi did not know, and could only ponder at this moment. Suddenly, it was as if a light had suddenly appeared. Nangongzhi saw the Heaven's Tribulation sword that he had placed on the tribute platform. He thought of the person who had taught him for a long time, the person who he believed to be the #1 swordsman in the world, the master of the Heaven's Tribulation sword, banishment. Even if he had become a demon, even if he was despised by others, banishment had never changed his mind. Since he liked the sword, he would practice it well. Since he cherished his current life, he would do his best to protect everything he had. If he was not strong enough, then he would work hard to cultivate. Danzo's words were reasonable, but Nangongzhi was still very young and had a lot of potential. At this time, Nangongzhi might not be able to resist the fierce wind that wanted to disturb the tree, and he might not be able to defeat the thief with ulterior motives. But Nangongzhi's strength would not stop here, and it would only become stronger. Since it was not enough now, he would work 10 times harder, 100 times harder, 1,000 times harder, 10,000 times harder. One day, whether it was the fierce wind or the thief, they would all be insignificant things. Nangongzhi muttered to himself, one day. If the wind wants to disturb me, I will use the sword in my hand to cut the wind. If someone wants to disturb me, I will use the sword in my hand to cut off their head. Nangongzhi walked with firm steps in front of his Heaven's Tribulation sword. Banishment Senior, one day, I will make myself worthy of being the master of the Heaven's Tribulation sword. Whether it is me or the Heaven's Tribulation sword, I will make their names resound throughout the heavens. Clang, Nangongzhi pulled out the Heaven's Tribulation sword from its scabbard. The sword's resonating sound was like a dragon's roar, and its aura soared to the heavens. Clouds. The sword light illuminated Nangongzhi's face, and Nangongzhi's face was also illuminated by sword light. In the Uchiha clan's land, Patriarch Uchiha Fugaku and the elders of the Uchiha clan were gathered here. Everyone's face was filled with anger and hatred. If someone saw this scene, they would definitely be shocked. Are they still human? Why are they so frightening? You bullies. Hingsu uses as new, the desk let out an ear-piercing squeak. Uchiha Fugaku was burning with rage at this moment. Naturally, an ordinary desk would not be able to withstand the power that he had unleashed. A moment later, it collapsed with a loud crash. The books, papers, brushes, and ink on the desk were scattered on the ground at this moment. It was a complete mess. Just like the mood of the Uchiha clan, it was chaotic and irritable. Uchiha Xianxia is a rare genius of our generation, and he has made a name for himself in the shinobi world. However, such a genius had actually died. His eyes were dug out and thrown into the river. If it weren't for the fact that part of our clan's land is bordered by this river, the clan guards would have found Shirsui's body. We still don't know about this yet. But what about the Woodleaf? Woodleaf didn't say anything at all. The elders of Kiba, the 3 generations, and Danzo, those 2 bastards, are probably laughing at our genius's premature death. Uchiha Fugaku's words were somewhat inappropriate. One must know that the Uchiha clan's elders, the elders of Kiba, the 3 generations, and Danzo can be said to be people of the same era. Since the elders of Kiba are all old bastards, then is the Uchiha clan's elders also a member of the old bastards? Fugaku. Calm down, you are the patriarch of the Uchiha clan. If you lose your calm at this time, then how can we make the right choice? Although the great elder was also very angry at this moment, he was still old. After all, he was different from the hot-blooded Uchiha Fugaku. The great elder had seen many things and suffered many grievances. Therefore, he still knew how to control his emotions and timely reminded Uchiha Fugaku. After being reminded by the great elder, Fugaku calmed down a little. He stretched out his hand, and a follower beside him handed a cup of tea to Fugaku. Not sure if it was because Uchiha Fugaku was too engrossed in shouting just now, but his throat was a little dry. He wanted to use this cup of tea to moisten his throat. That's right. In fact, Fugaku wasn't that angry, at least he didn't show it. After all, although Shirsui was a genius, he wasn't in the same camp as Fugaku. In most cases, Shirsui's relationship with the Uchiha elders was closer. This was also why the elders were so angry at this moment. Only a living genius was called a genius. And a dead genius was just a corpse. Fugaku was very clear about this point. And the elders didn't necessarily feel sorry for a genius like Shirsui falling. Maybe they felt sorry for the precious resources they had invested in Shirsui. But these words couldn't be said openly. If they said it, wouldn't it be a deliberate fallout? But no one thought that in fact, Shirsui's value was huge. Because Shirsui's original 3-tomo Sharingan had evolved into Mangekyo Sharingan. Not to mention that there was a powerful illusion like Kodo Ematsukami that could unknowingly control others. If Uchiha Fugaku and the elders knew about this, who knows how sad they would be that such a pair of Mangekyo Sharingan was lost. After Fugaku put on a show just now, it could be regarded as a slight comfort to the elders. At this time, it was time to talk about serious matters. Elders, although Uchiha is not as strong as when Woodleaf first built the village, no one can bully us. Fugaku stood up and looked at the members of the Uchiha clan sitting below him. Ha ha ha. Fugaku stood up and looked at the Uchiha clan's members. With his hands behind his back, Fugaku's eyes were shining. We want to prove to the world that Uchiha is still strong. If it wasn't for Senju Takuma of the Senju clan, how could it be possible for a Senju clan ninja to take the power of Hokage? The pride of Uchiha doesn't allow us to bow down to others. This time, we will use the power of the whole clan. Overthrow the rule of the Senju clan over Woodleaf. Let Hyuga, Yuan Fei, Nara, Yamanaka, Orimikai, and all the people who support Hokage know that they have chosen the wrong person. They chose the wrong party to be loyal to. We, the Uchiha, are the real strongest clan in Konoha. We are the real ruler of Woodleaf. Uchiha Fugaku said, and he began to imagine himself wearing Hokage's Haori and wearing Hokage's hat, accepting the worship of all the ninjas and civilians of Woodleaf. It's really easy. Fast. People. Heart. Chapter 126. In the Hokage's office, the 3 generations were dealing with some daily documents, and from time to time they would frown for a moment. This is really an eventful time. The 3 generations couldn't help but sigh. Originally, ever since Danzo brought the news of the Uchiha clan's movements, the 3 generations have been a little restless, and at the same time, the Woodleaf defense team also found many changes in the barrier. After investigation, it has been confirmed that ninjas from outside the village have sneaked into the village, but after searching for a while there was no trace of them, which made them very upset. Reporting to Hokage-sama. Suddenly, a black figure appeared in front of the desk of the Three Generations. It was a member of the Umbu, and at the moment he was half kneeling in front of the Three Generations. What's the matter? After seeing this Umbu, the Three Generations faintly felt that something was wrong. This Umbu was specially sent by the Three Generations to supervise the Uchiha clan, and since this person came, then there must be something wrong with the Uchiha clan. Just now, the Uchiha clan's ninjas who are proficient in barrier techniques were secretly mobilized, and according to the tracking of the Umbu, most of them are scattered in the Woodleaf defense team led by the Uchiha clan to patrol the Woodleaf village. And the frequency is very high. It is very likely that they are trying to figure out the pillars of the Woodleaf village. After the Umbu finished, he lowered his head and waited for the instructions of the Three Generations. Uchiha. I have spared you again and again, but you are still not willing to extinguish your evil intentions? The Three Generations also became a little angry, and he stretched out a hand to express his indignation. But suddenly, as if thinking of something, he asked the Umbu kneeling in front of him, even if the Uchiha clan is really disloyal, it is impossible for them to act so early. After all, they are still far from being prepared. So, what is the reason that angered the Uchiha clan's brute? Although the Three Generations didn't slap the table, but under the anger, it was inevitable that his mouth would not spare the Uchiha clan. The Umbu kneeling in front of the Three Generations seemed to recall some things when he was monitoring the village. Finally, he remembered some of the Uchiha clan's chatter that he occasionally heard. So he said to the Three Generations, because the Uchiha clan has a lot of powerful ninjas guarding the village, we can't directly go in to inquire the news. But occasionally, we heard a few people who left the Uchiha clan's place to leave. But the Uchiha's sure sway to the Uchiha clan's death's sure sway, Uchiha's sure sway, even with his eyes. After reporting it to Hokage-sama, they didn't get the result they wanted, so many elders and Uchiha Fugaku as the clan's patriarch are still brooding over this matter. The Three Generations' eyebrows were crooked with anger. Just because of a dead genius, this group of people would do such an irrational thing? If this was the case, Uchiha Fugaku wouldn't be the clan's patriarch, and a group of Uchiha elders wouldn't be able to hold the position of the clan's patriarch. Humph. Dissatisfied? Since when did Uchiha see himself as a member of the Woodleaf clan? Now that one of their own is dead, they want to push the blame on Woodleaf clan's head? Let Woodleaf clans take the blame. It's easy to think. The Three Generations couldn't help but snort coldly, and then said, all of this is just a show for outsiders to see. Perhaps that Uchiha clansman who let you hear the news did it on purpose. With such news, although the Uchiha clan's rebellion is still not justified, at least there will be a last layer of fig leaf. Geniuses can only be called geniuses when they are alive. Dead? That's just a corpse. He wondered how Uchiha Fugaku would react if he heard that the Three Generations actually held the same view as him. After all, the Three Generations had always presented Woodleaf with an amiable side. Who would have thought that the Three Generations also had such a cold and ruthless side? However, if Tua hadn't been so cold-blooded in the Three Generations, he wouldn't have been able to get the position of Hokage. In the past, Danzo had great ambitions for the position of Hokage, but even a cautious and ruthless person like Danzo lost in the hands of the Three Generations. Go and tell Danzo and Itachi Uchiha to come to the Hokage's office, but remember to tell them not to reveal themselves. Come quietly, it's time to beat some people who dare to come out. If a big tree doesn't occasionally trim its branches and leaves, it can't become tall and towering. The Umbu under the seat bowed his head and softly answered, and then disappeared. Only the Three Generations were left standing in front of the huge floor-to-ceiling window of the Hokage's office, looking at the Uchiha clan's land in the distance. Their eyes were deep, making people shudder with fear. Danzo. What are you planning? Nangongzhe was sitting at home. He still didn't understand why Danzou came to recruit him this time. When Danzou appeared, in fact, Nangongzhe was already prepared to have a good fight with Danzou and his men. But he didn't expect Danzou to leave after saying a few harsh words. Although Danzou's words were indeed very lethal, it also made Nangongzhe very restless at that time. But it was limited to this. To use such a few words to move Nangongzhe was too far away. Nangongzhe always felt that when Danzou left, he felt like he had seen through him. His weakness? Nangongro. Mashiro. Little linger. That's right, it must be like this. Root always did things unscrupulously. Kidnapping and blackmailing was the lowest level of behavior. It seems like during this period of time, I can't let those annoying flies continue to fly around my house. Nangongzhe's eyes flashed with a trace of ruthlessness, and even a trace of excitement. He had sealed his sword for 3 years and hadn't used it. 3 years of killing intent, 3 years of sword energy, were all brewing in his chest. He was only waiting for the day when the killing intent would erupt and let the calamity sword show its power. As he spoke, Nangongzhe had already picked up the calamity sword beside him. Today, it's time to let those people see how powerful I am. So that they won't disturb my life. Nangongzhe exerted force with his ankle and shot up into the sky from his house's corridor. The huge force was clearly enough to make a person fly into the sky, but it didn't leave a single mark on the fragile wooden floor. There was an ancient saying, 3 years of silence, one amazing the world with a single brilliant feat. 3 years of silence, one soars to the heavens. Then, if he hadn't killed anyone for 3 years, would his killing intent be overflowing? Chapter 127. Qi, fresh blood spurted out from the body of a man in black in front of Nangongzhe, dyeing the ground red. The 18th one. Nangongzhe swung the long sword in his hand. The blood on the sword fell onto the trunk of a nearby tree due to the centrifugal force. The blood flowed down the tree like the water of the Three Roads River, marking the loss of a life. This was the 18th person Nangongzhe killed today for spying on his family. Nangongzhe didn't care which faction this person belonged to, nor did he care what kind of impact this person's death would cause. The reason was simple. Since they only sent one person to spy on Nangongzhe secretly. This proved that this faction didn't have the ability to directly deal with Nangongzhe, or rather, they didn't place their focus on Nangongzhe. Since that was the case, he killed him. For Nangongzhe, this was a short opportunity to show off his strength. Since there were people who wanted to kill him, wouldn't he be letting them down if he didn't reap their lives? Nangongzhe was still dressed in black. He carried the black calamity sword and walked into the courtyard of his house. Although Nangongzhe had tried his best to retract his murderous aura and hostility, it still leaked out a little, making people feel that there was a gloomy aura around him. Brother? Nangongzhe suddenly poked his head out of the house and saw Nangongzhe, who had just walked into the courtyard. His small nose twitched slightly, and he immediately noticed a thin but still detectable smell of blood. Coupled with the long sword in Nangongzhe's hand and the cold aura that lingered around his body. Nangongro could easily guess what Nangongzhe had just done. After living with his sister for so many years, even if his sister didn't speak, Nangongzhe could sense that his sister wanted to ask what had happened. Therefore, without waiting for his sister to speak, he took the lead and spoke first. In the afternoon, the leader of Woodleaf Root, Danzou, came. He said a lot of things that I didn't understand and wanted to pull me into his roots to work for him. But when I refused, this guy didn't bother me at all and just left. There were no good people in Root, not to mention the leader of Root, Danzou. So, just in case, I got rid of all the people around our house who were sent by someone to spy on us. Don't go to Kiba Hospital for the next few days. Take a long leave. I've been at home for so long, but I haven't seen anyone come to recruit me. Even someone like Danzo is trying to recruit me. Something must have happened. Nangong-ro nodded. She knew that what her brother said made sense. Therefore, he didn't say much. But at this moment, there was a knock on Nangong's door. Nangong-ro opened the door and found that it was Yichui standing at the door. "Yabuki, what's wrong?" At this moment, Yichui was panting as she held onto Nangong's door frame. Obviously, there was something urgent. Nangong-ro quickly asked. "It's Mashiro. Mashiro is missing." Yichui was panting, but she still said the reason why she rushed to Nangong's house. "Yabuki, don't worry. Explain the situation to us first. What's going on?" Nangongja also knew that Yichui wouldn't say such things without any basis. Since Yabuki said that Mashiro was missing, then something must have happened to Mashiro. The more it was like this, the more he couldn't be anxious. Nangongja quickly welcomed Yichui into his living room. "It's like this. Originally, I was responsible for looking after the store in the afternoon. Mashiro's sister looked after the store in the morning. But because Sakura didn't seem to be feeling well, I discussed with Mashiro to look after the store for the day. Mashiro also agreed. But when I accompanied Sakura to the hospital and was about to bring Mashiro to my house for dinner, I found that Mashiro wasn't in the store. I asked the staff, and they said that Mashiro was called out by someone wearing an umbu uniform not long ago. After that, he didn't come back. I knew that things were bad. So I came to tell you that something happened to Mashiro." Yichui seemed to be anxious as she couldn't even speak smoothly. But Nangongja and Nangong-ro clearly understood what Yichui meant. That was, Mashiro was taken away by the umbu and there was no news of him until now. Only a few of those who were taken away by the dark group were able to return safely. So Yichui immediately came to find Nangongja, hoping that Nangongja would have a way to solve this matter. "Umbu uniform, kidnap, close people. Root?" Nangongja murmured. Such a way of doing things and dressing up reminded him of the infamous Root Group's way of doing things. What's more, Danzo had previously tried to recruit Nangongja but was rejected. It wasn't unreasonable for them to kidnap Mashiro. And Nangong-ro also knew that this matter might be related to Root. For a moment, he became a little anxious. "Brother, little Linger isn't home. Could it be?" Nangong-ro didn't continue, but Nangongja still understood what his sister meant. Since Root could kidnap Mashiro, then it was naturally possible for them to kidnap little Linger. Nangong-ro was probably working at Kiba Hospital today, so Danzo couldn't directly barge into the hospital to kidnap her. And two close people were enough to threaten Nangongja, so Nangong-ro wasn't that important. Nangongja's body instantly emitted a thick murderous aura. Today, Nangongja was already annoyed by Danzo and even killed 18 people who were spying on his house. However, he was still one step behind Danzo. Mashiro and little Linger were most likely already captured. In this situation, even if Nangongja was kind-hearted, he couldn't resist the urge to kill. And Nangongja wasn't a particularly friendly person, right? "Ruru, go to Kakashi's house now." These few days, Kakashi didn't have any missions, so he stayed at home. With Kakashi's strength, he can still guarantee your safety. Nangongja looked at his sister and said calmly. "What about you, brother?" Nangong-ro couldn't help but ask. But just as the words left her mouth, Nangong-ro had already guessed her brother's answer. "I'm going to pick up Mashiro and little Linger. No matter who it is, anyone who dares to threaten me and treat the people close to me like this cannot be forgiven." Although Nangongja was still speaking very calmly, his anger was already burning fiercely. "Li Yang! Protect me!" Nangongja finally shouted out these words. A layer of black armor slowly covered Nangongja's body. "Ha ha ha! Kid, it's already been 3 years. I haven't fought for 3 years, and I can't hold it in anymore. Today, I'll let those little guys see what we're capable of. Li Yang's voice sounded again. Her loud roar echoed in Nan Gongjia's mind, as if she had just been freed from her restraints. I've sealed my sword for 3 years, and now I see blood. 18 lives, that's still far from enough. Since they came to provoke me, I'll let them know what it means to be filled with killing intent. Chapter 128. Yabuki, don't go anywhere. Go to Kakashi's place with Ro. Since Root caught Mashiro and Little Linger. Then everyone I care about and close to is facing danger. Shina Kushina has 3 generations watching over her. No one dares to touch her. But you are different. You have to be careful. Nan Gongjia's body was covered with the black armor that he had not worn for a long time. His head was also covered by the armor. A slightly strange voice came out from the black armor. Although Yachui had not seen Nan Gongjia wearing the black armor, it was not the time to pay attention to such small matters. Yachui nodded, indicating that she understood Nan Gongjia's intention. Ro, come here. Nan Gongjia waved at Nan Gong Ro, allowing Nan Gong Ro to come to his side. Then, he placed his hand on Nan Gong Ro's shoulder, and a soft voice was transmitted to Nan Gong Ro's ears. I have already left a mark on your body, just in case. Don't tell anyone, okay? Then, he raised his voice and said, I'm leaving. Wait until I bring back Mashiro and Little Linger, then we will discuss how to solve this matter. At this moment, Yachui, who was standing at the side, stared at Nan Gongjia's hand that was on Nan Gong Ro's shoulder. No one knew what she was thinking. Nan Gongjia exerted strength in his legs and left his house at an extremely fast speed. In an instant, he had disappeared without a trace. Kid. Although I know that you are anxious to save them, do you know where their base is? Although I don't know how strong Root is, this kind of organization that specializes in dirty work is not easy to find, right? Li Yang was very strange. Nan Gongjia's behavior was not like the Nan Gongjia she knew. Although the Nan Gongjia of the past knew that someone close to him was kidnapped, he would definitely be furious. However, he would never be so angry and irrational as he was now. However, Li Yang was a familiar beast that was connected to Nan Gongjia's life. Nan Gongjia's mental state was actually very calm. But there was definitely something wrong with acting so agitated. Li Yang did not know Nan Gongjia's plan, but she still cooperated with Nan Gongjia's act. It's very simple, because the one who came to my house and told me that Mashiro is missing is not the real Yabuki. Nan Gongjia stopped running and looked around. He knew that he had run far away. Therefore, he stopped and said slowly. Fake? Did she think that she could fool me just because she acted like Yabuki? When Yabuki panted in front of my house, I felt that something was wrong. Because I was very clear about Yabuki's stamina, although she did not usually show it. But just the distance from the clothing store to my house was not enough for Yabuki to be panting like this. After that, Yabuki told me and Ro about how she found out that Mashiro was kidnapped. Although it was logical, I still faintly felt that something was wrong. So I deliberately pretended to be angry in front of her. If it was the usual Yabuki, she would definitely try to calm me down. But this person seemed to want me to leave immediately and did not try to stop me. When I called Ro, I specifically used Roer, a nickname that I would not normally use. If it was the Yabuki who was familiar with us, even if she did not notice it, she would subconsciously have some reaction. But this person did not react at all, as if that was how I should call Roer. After that, I pressed on Ro's shoulder. That person also kept staring at my hand. It seems that she also thought that I left a mental imprint on Ro's body. Although she tried her best to make it hard for others to notice her gaze, I have been trying to let natural energy enter my body to strengthen my body after I was able to use it. Therefore, I could still feel the gaze from him. There are already so many suspicious points, is it not enough for me to think that this person is not the real Yabuki? Nangongzhi said his conjecture, but there was something that he did not say. That was, after he saw this person, he felt a surge of blood in his heart. This kind of feeling made Nangongzhi feel that there was something fishy. He left behind a sense of caution in everything he did. I didn't think that you would grow so much in these 3 years. Hearing Nangongzhi's words, Li Yang also felt that Nangongzhi had indeed grown a lot. In this kind of place where you don't know when the enemy will take your head, this kind of caution is necessary. Then what are we going to do now? Li Yang continued to ask after praising Nangongzhi. After all, since Nangongzhi dared to let Nangongro stay with the fake Yichui, he naturally had a plan, right? It's very simple. Wait. The imprint I left on Ru Ro's body is not 1, but 2. The method to isolate the aura can only isolate the spiritual imprint on the surface. On the deeper imprint, I added a wisp of my own sword energy. No matter how I isolate it, it can't cut off the connection between me and my sword energy. Even if the fake Yichui endangers Ru Ro's life, the sword energy will explode. Let's directly kill that person. Nangongzhi said calmly, but in fact, he was still a little worried. If it wasn't for Mashiro and Little Linger being taken to God knows where by this group of root ninjas, he wouldn't take such a risk and do something that might harm his sister. Although he made thorough preparations, Nangongzhi still felt a little sorry for his sister. That Yabuki. Shall we go to Kakashi's house now and find Kakashi? Nangongro looked at Yichui who was standing beside her and asked. There was still some worry on her face. It was unknown whether she was worried about Mashiro and Little Linger or her brother. Kakashi's house? No. We don't need to go to Kakashi's house. A strange smile suddenly appeared on Yichui's face, making people feel very scared. Her hands suddenly formed a contact transformation technique, and smoke instantly rose from Yapui's body. Soon, the smoke dissipated, revealing a ninja wearing umbu attire and a chameleon mask. You should come with us directly to Root. Let's see how much your brother cares about you. Will he join Root for you? Several shadows jumped over the wall of Nangongzhi's house and instantly surrounded Nangongro. Several people came forward and tied Nangongro tightly with ropes, and one of them took out a talisman and stuck it on Nangongro's body. Every Root ninja was immersed in the joy of completing the mission, but no one noticed that Nangongro's mouth had a trace of a smile. Chapter 129. Nangongzhi suddenly raised his head, apparently noticing something. They have already subdued Ro, and blocked my mark. Nangongzhi didn't wait for Nangongro's answer, he directly moved to the place where Nangongro's mark sensed. Several Root ninjas felt that it wasn't easy to make Nangongzhi ignore his sister's safety. After subduing Nangongro, they quickly rushed to their destination. As for where Nangongzhi went, in fact, the Root ninjas didn't care at all. Because even if Nangongzhi found the Hokage, he wouldn't know where the Root headquarters is located. Let's try to hurry up and hand over Nangongro to Sama. Only then can we be considered to have completed this mission. The Root ninja with the chameleon mask said to his subordinates who were escorting Nangongro. The Root ninjas also knew that once Nangongzhi reacted, it would be difficult for them to complete their mission. Therefore, they all sped up their journey. The surrounding trees turned into afterimages, and the Root ninjas were rushing, while Nangongzhi was far behind. They stopped. Nangongzhi suddenly found that the people who were with Nangongro had stopped moving, and he knew that he had arrived at the place he was looking for. Nangongzhi naturally couldn't let Nangongro fall into the hands of the enemy, so he immediately sped up and caught up with the Root ninjas who were holding Nangongro. You guys. Let her go, and I can consider leaving your bodies intact. Nangongzhi suddenly appeared in front of the Root ninjas, and then said with a calm and cold face. You. How is this possible? We clearly used the best talisman to isolate Nangong Ro's aura. How did you find her so quickly? The chameleon mask ninja saw Nangong's figure and was shocked. The chameleon mask root had seen Nangong's information before. Naturally, he recognized that the person covered in black armor with a lion figure was the Nangongja that he thought he had successfully deceived. In order to prevent Nangongja from discovering Nangong Ro's whereabouts, the talisman used by the chameleon mask root to seal Nangong Ro's presence was a high-grade talisman from the root's collection. Even a shadow tier wouldn't be able to discover the presence of something sealed by a talisman. Even if Nangongja was strong, he was far from being a tier ninja. Otherwise, Danzo wouldn't use this method to try to control Nangongja. I say. Nangongja suddenly sped up. The black armor on his body began to glow with black lightning, rolling over it. The lightning was like a dragon bathing in the sea of clouds, roaming freely. At the same time, Nangongja's speed sharply increased under the stimulation of the lightning. He arrived behind the two root ninjas who were holding Nangong Ro. He didn't even think about it as he swiftly cut off the heads of the two ninjas with his sword. I'm not a villain, why are you talking nonsense with me? Why don't I just kill you directly? I need to explain a little bit. Nangongja paused for a moment, and at the same time, he arrived behind the other root ninjas. It was still a simple move, and the heads of the root ninjas who were trained by Danzo, who were known as the Woodleaf Guardians, fell to the ground. His figure flashed a few times, and only the chameleon mask ninja was still standing in the same place. The other root ninjas were all killed by Nangongja. Nangongja stood in front of the chameleon mask ninja, and the black sword with a trace of blood was directly pointed at the chameleon mask ninja's forehead. Are you stupid or am I stupid? The chameleon mask ninja just opened his mouth to say something, but Nangongja had already pierced his head with his sword. You want to talk? Sorry. Looking at the chameleon mask ninja on the ground, Nangongja picked his ears, and glanced at his black sword that was covered with some yellow and white filth, and said with some disgust, You made my sword so dirty, who has time to listen to you? Little gecko. Nangong Ro had originally come to watch her brother slaughter everyone. Furthermore, she had seen so many people being beheaded and lying not far from her. Nangong Ro also felt a little uncomfortable, but when she heard Nangongja actually said that the chameleon mask ninja was a gecko, she couldn't help but interrupt, Brother, he's a chameleon. Nangongja stared blankly at the mask of the root ninja that he had just pierced through with his sword. Chameleon? Gecko? Aren't they similar? They're both lizards. Brother, you gave me so many things to complain about, do you want me to complain to my heart's content? I'm not a complaining slave, hey. Okay, it was certain that at this moment, Nangong Ro was slightly enraged. After saying so many strange things, Nangongja also knew that this was not a good time to talk to his sister. Thus, he hurriedly changed the topic and said, Okay, these things should wait until I rescue Mashiro and Little Linger before going back to talk about it. Obviously, Nangong Ro also knew that now was not the time to complain, so she nodded and indicated that these things could wait until everyone returned home to slowly educate her stupid brother. Liang, can you build a stable space channel now? Nangongja suddenly asked Liang, who was connected to his life. Of course, these 3 years I haven't been doing nothing, okay? You're preparing to. Liang immediately answered Nangongja's question. That's right, I already feel that Woodleaf is completely unsafe now. It's safer to first send Ruru to the alternate dimension where the Lion clan resides. After rescuing Mashiro and Little Linger, I will also send them to the alternate dimension. When the situation in Woodleaf stabilizes, I will bring them back. But, brother, after listening to Nangongja's words, Nangong Ro suddenly walked to Nangongja's side. She just opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but Nangongja's serious look made her swallow her words. This matter is not negotiable. I love you very much, but I hope that you can be safe and sound. This is also the reason why I didn't agree to let you sign up as a combat ninja, but instead let you become a medical ninja. Nangong Ro looked at her brother and listened to her brother's words. For a while, she couldn't find any reason to refute her brother because Nangong's words were indeed reasonable. With Nangong's character, he would never let himself fall into any kind of dangerous situation. So she could only lower her head and remain silent. Nangongja gently placed his black-armored hand on Nangong Ro's head. Just as he was about to rub his sister's head, Nangong Ro suddenly stopped him. But he found that he couldn't touch his sister's head with his armor, so he could only take back his hand. He inserted the tribulation sword into the ground. Under Li Yang's control, the lightning on the black armor slowly surged. Following the direction of the tribulation sword, it flowed to the ground like water and slowly formed a space shuttle formation. Chapter 130. Soon, the array composed of black lightning slowly stabilized. The light wasn't as dazzling as before, and it was engraved on the ground with a faint glow. Ro. Go to the lion tribe's alternate dimension first. I've already told Li Yang to inform his descendant in the alternate dimension. It's a little lion called Arthur. He'll take good care of you. I'll quickly rescue Mashiro and Little Linger and meet you in the alternate dimension. Nangongja looked at his sister and said. Nangong Ro looked at her brother. She didn't want to leave her brother's side and let him face a colossus like Root alone. However, Nangong Ro knew that with her little strength, she couldn't help Nangongja much. She might even be a burden. Rather than that, she might as well go to a safe place and wait for Nangongja to find her. Although waiting was torturous, Nangong Ro would rather suffer than add trouble to her brother. Okay. Nangong Ro's voice was a little soft as if she was trying her best to suppress her emotions. He wanted to make a rational decision, so he slowly walked into the magic array. However, the moment the formation was activated, Nangong Ro suddenly turned her head and looked at her brother. The faintly discernible voices were clearly transmitted into Nangongja's ears. You have to come back alive. Nangongja didn't know what to say because when the words came out of Nangong Ro's mouth. Nangong Ro's eyes were also filled with hot tears. Facing his sister's tears, Nangongja couldn't bring himself to harden his heart. However, Mashiro and Little Linger were also his family. They were family that he had decided to protect. Home was never a physical location. Instead, it was a group of people who tolerated each other, protected each other, and lived together. Only when he, Nangong Ro, Mashiro, and Little Linger were together could it be considered a complete family. Nangong Ro's figure disappeared into the array. Nangongja knew that his sister no longer had anything to worry about. His only goal now was to rescue Mashiro and Little Linger. After that, he would cultivate properly and strengthen Mashiro, Nangong Ro, and Little Linger. No matter how powerful he was, he couldn't split himself up. He was different from those ninjas, he didn't know any jutsu like cloning technique. If he was alone, then he had to make sure that Mashiro, Nangong Ro, and Little Linger had enough strength before he could be at ease. He had been too confident in himself before. Li Yang. How is it? Did you find anything like an entrance? Nangongja asked Li Yang. After all, the most important thing now was to rescue Mashiro and Little Linger. Everything else could be put aside for the time being. But generally, this kind of secret base would have some kind of array protecting it. Nangongja wasn't very proficient in this kind of thing. He could only rely on Li Yang's experience to solve this array. I think I know what kind of array this is. Li Yang snorted and then said her opinion and judgment. Although this array is different from the ones in my time, the basic principle is still the same. That is, by artificially changing the landscape, flowers, and trees to attract natural energy between heaven and earth, as well as all kinds of elemental energy to achieve the goal of the person who built the array. Therefore, there were some things that remained the same no matter how many changes there were. This array is the same. I found that the main function of this array is to attract natural energy to achieve concealment, illusion, and some offensive effects. So, I've already thought of a solution. How am I supposed to deal with such a formation? Nan Gongzhi hurriedly asked when he heard Li Yang's explanation. He even said that he already knew how to break the formation. It's actually very simple. Because you are the best person to solve this array. There are several centers in the array that are used to circulate and regulate natural energy. Only the regulated energy can be used by the array. Once the regulated energy is gone, the array will become unstable. If the energy was too unstable, it would cause the entire formation to collapse. You can use the Calamity Sword to communicate with natural energy. For the past few years, you have been trying to directly use natural energy in your body. So, your sensitivity to natural energy is beyond ordinary people. Even I can't compare to you. Now, as long as you carefully feel the natural energy, you will be able to find the centers used to regulate it. As long as we can destroy these centers, it is equivalent to breaking the array. Nan Gongzhi didn't understand this kind of thing, but Li Yang explained it so clearly. Nan Gongzhi also felt that this was the best and fastest solution, so he nodded and closed his eyes to concentrate. A cool feeling began to rise from the back of Nan Gongzhi's head. At first, it drifted upwards, but gradually seeped into Nan Gongzhi's brain. For a moment, Nan Gongzhi felt that his 5 senses were greatly improved. The cool feeling seemed to know that it couldn't do much in Nan Gongzhi's brain, so it left a part of its energy to maintain the state of Nan Gongzhi's brain. It followed the spine all the way down, and scattered into several small streams of energy that flowed into Nan Gongzhi's organs. Then, just like the brain, when the optimization of the organs reached a stable state, the cool feeling gathered again. The cool energy gathered again and slowly entered Nan Gongzhi's meridians. It combined with the internal energy that originally existed in Nan Gongzhi's meridians, and flowed along Nan Gongzhi's meridians to his 4 limbs. Bit by bit, it stimulated Nan Gongzhi's potential. Although it took a long time, the process was actually very fast. It was faster than the blink of an eye. The most obvious change on Nan Gongzhi's body was the appearance of a silver pattern on Nan Gongzhi's forehead. Although it looked like a few ordinary lines, it didn't look very eye-catching. It wasn't even that conspicuous under the sun, but if one were to seriously and carefully look at the silver patterns on Nan Gongzhi's spiritual palace, they would involuntarily feel a wave of dizziness. It was as if the lines weren't simple lines, but were formed by many difficult-to-see runes gathered together to form a line. A few lines formed the pattern on Nan Gongzhi's forehead. This was Nan Gongzhi's immortal mode. It was the true state after the natural energy was integrated into his body. It was also the key to breaking the formation. Chapter 131. Open. Nan Gongzhi muttered in his heart, and the silver mark on his forehead emitted a faint light. A few simple lines contained countless runes that were slowly moving, indicating that the runes were being activated. The boundless natural energy that was distributed between heaven and earth turned into small green light spots in front of Nan Gongzhi's eyes. The area in front of Nan Gongzhi that was supposed to be covered by a magic circle had turned into a magic circle formed by a river of green light spots. In the magic circle, the intersection of some of the green rivers had turned into a small lake of green light spots. This should be the center of the magic circle that Li Yang mentioned, and also the key to the operation of the magic circle. Li Yang, I have found the center of the magic circle that you mentioned. Do we just need to destroy them one by one? Nan Gongzhi asked Li Yang, who had transformed into his black armor. Of course, as long as the central point is destroyed. If the center of the magic circle is destroyed, the magic circle will exist in name only. Nan Gongzhi nodded, and the black armor on his body began to surge with lightning. Slowly, the lightning energy became more and more active, and Nangong's body magically left the ground and floated up an inch. "What are you doing?" Li Yang saw Nangong's strange behavior and couldn't help but ask. "Since we are destroying the nodes, why don't we just destroy them once in a while?" Nangongja said as if it was a matter of fact. Shouldn't we destroy the nodes one by one, then sneak into Root's headquarters to rescue Mashiro and Little Linger? Although Li Yang had always been arrogant and violent, he was exceptionally meticulous when doing things. While achieving his goal, he had to pay the smallest price. Nangong's current behavior made Li Yang feel that it didn't conform to his standards. "It's very simple. I will use the lightning energy on the black armor to float in the air temporarily and destroy the entire magic circle," Nangongja said matter-of-factly. Li Yang, who was in his black armor, was dumbfounded. "Why? Won't this attract more enemies? It's not worth it," Li Yang said hurriedly, as if she wanted to stop Nangongja from doing such a dangerous thing. This time, the goal was obviously to rescue Mashiro and Little Linger who were captured, so there was no need to mobilize a large number of root ninjas. However, Nangongja shook his head. He continued to stimulate the lightning energy on his black armor so that he could ascend even higher. "You can't escape. I've worked with root ninjas before, so I know what kind of people they are. Each of them is a member of the huge machine that is Root. They don't care about the life or death of their fellow Root ninjas. Previously, they had specially sent a small team to lure me away from Ruru's side and capture Ruru. Root must have given them a fixed time to carry out the mission. Once they exceed the time limit, Root will automatically think that their mission has failed. Moreover, they must make all preparations to prevent the enemy from invading. In order to not let Ruru fall into danger, I killed the root ninjas as soon as possible. During this time, it's very likely that they have exceeded the time limit set by root ninjas. We can't gamble with our own safety on the enemy's reaction speed. Since Root wants to use Mashiro and Little Linger's lives to threaten me, then at least they won't kill Mashiro and Ruru before I'm completely on the opposite side of Root and can't be controlled. With Danzo's arrogant personality, even if I directly attack Root's headquarters, it will only make him want to recruit me more. Mashiro and Little Linger's lives will also be guaranteed. This is actually a disguised form of showing my strength, to let Danzo and the entire Woodleaf know if my strength is worth provoking. Nangongja said very clearly, very clearly. It also made Li Yang feel that Nangongja was already different from the youth she taught little by little. At the beginning, Nangongja's experience and methods were actually imitating Li Yang's habits to a certain extent. But now, with the rise of Nangongja's strength, and the increase of various things he experienced, the current Nangongja has formed his own way of dealing with people. Although this is very good, Li Yang couldn't help but hide a slight trace of loneliness in her heart. In Li Yang's eyes, Nangongja was a junior that she watched grow up step by step. Although when he was weak, Li Yang was worried that he would be in danger. But now that Nangongja has become such a mature and independent person, the loneliness and melancholy of her own child finally growing up and becoming independent will not disappear for a long time. Since you've already thought it through so clearly, then do things according to your ideas. Although Li Yang's heart was filled with all kinds of complicated emotions, she still said this to Nangongja. Nangongja also nodded, and focused on what he was doing now. Now that Nangongja was about 20 meters above the forest, the situation below could be seen clearly. Nangongja could also see the natural energy nodes through the emblem in his heart, especially clearly. Nangongja held his tribulation sword upside down in front of him, and slowly let go of the sword in his hand. The tribulation sword was not pulled down by gravity, but it was suspended in front of Nangongja. The sword chi in his body constantly poured into the tribulation sword, turning into a sharp sword chi that was as sharp as a sword's edge. It gathered around Nangongja. In the beginning, the sword chi that was born was very slow, but slowly, more and more sword chi appeared. The outline of the sword chi gradually became clearer, and it was a divine dragon. Head like a camel, horns like a deer, eyes like a rabbit, ears like a cow, neck like a snake, belly like a snake, scales like a carp, claws like an eagle, and palms like a tiger. It was different from the sword chi dragon that Nangongzhou unconsciously formed when Nine Tails attacked the village. Instead, it formed a lifelike divine dragon that kept circling around. Nangongzhou was at the reverse scale of the sword chi dragon. Since he wanted to show off his muscles, he naturally had to let this group of ninjas see the strength of an internal force cultivator. The sword chi dragon that had once fought Nine Tails head-on was the best choice. Originally, it was just a sword chi dragon with a slight dragon shape, but it was already able to fight against the nine-tailed sword chi. Then, how powerful would this fully formed sword chi dragon be? Chapter 132. Nangongzhou's sword chi dragon was now completely formed. At this moment, the sword chi dragon exuded a dragon's aura that was different from any other aura. Originally, in a dense forest, Nangongzhou could still hear the chirping of cicadas and birds from time to time. However, when the sword chi dragon was formed, the voices seemed to have been frightened. Not a single sound could be heard. The catastrophe sword, which was originally floating in front of Nangongzhou, began to slowly move up to the mouth of the sword chi dragon. Endless sword chi was emitted from the catastrophe sword, wrapping the catastrophe sword into a ball. It turned into a dragon pearl in the sword chi dragon's mouth. Very good. Nangongzhou sensed the state of the sword chi dragon that he had condensed. He felt that the sword chi dragon was now the most perfect he could do. If he wanted to strengthen the sword chi dragon even more, he might have to break through the threshold of the so-called shadow level. Nangongzhou, who was floating in the air above the forest, looked at the formation below. His eyes revealed a slight seriousness, and he shouted, "Go!" The dragon pearl formed by the catastrophe sword began to rush towards one of the central points, and the sword chi dragon followed closely behind. Although the sword chi dragon already had the shape of a dragon, Nangongzhou could not completely control it as he wished. Therefore, he relied on the dragon pearl formed by the catastrophe sword to aim and track the target. This was a big weakness of the sword chi dragon. The charging time was a little long, and the method to lock onto the enemy was a little complicated. This caused this move to not be able to play its greatest role in a one-on-one battle. This sword chi dragon was actually more suitable to be used on the battlefield as a strategic weapon. After all, there were many people on the battlefield. Even if the catastrophe sword was not used to guide the sword chi dragon, the sword chi dragon would still be able to display great power. The energy lake formed by the natural energy condensed through the central point was not a particularly strong existence. Instead, it was a little too weak. When the sword chi dragon rushed towards the natural energy lake under the guidance of the dragon pearl's head had just touched the lake when the lake was washed away. The natural energy that was washed away did not dissipate into the world. Instead, it turned into a fluorescent light that replenished the sword chi dragon and the catastrophe sword. That's right, the natural energy was absorbed by the sword chi dragon and the catastrophe sword that was released by Nangongzhou. This time, 80% of the energy was replenished by their sword chi dragons, while 20% flowed into the heavenly tribulation sword. This was the result after Nangongzhou's calculation. Because of the catastrophe sword chi dragons had a very close relationship with the natural energy. To the natural energy sword chi dragon sword, sword chi's zhe, own sword chi dragon pearl's sword. To the sword chi's ki to, the sword to zhe, sword. Nangongzhou specifically chose this central point with the smallest natural energy lake among the 36 central points. In fact, it's to let the sword chi dragon absorb more natural energy and become more powerful. This time, the sword chi dragon absorbed the natural energy lake's energy and strengthened by almost 20%. The remaining natural energy lakes have more and more natural energy than the previous one. If all the natural energy lakes are absorbed, then the Sword Chi Dragon Pearl will be at least 5 times stronger than it is now. It can be said that this Sword Chi Dragon Pearl has already surpassed the strongest summoned beast in the world. Since I spent so much natural energy to build this Sword Chi Dragon Pearl, I naturally have to make it more valuable. Nangongzhi felt the strength of the Sword Chi Dragon Pearl, and began to calculate the strength of the Sword Chi Dragon Pearl after absorbing all the natural energy lakes. However, after the Sword Chi Dragon Pearl destroyed the natural energy lakes, it still inevitably hit the ground. As one of the guardian forces of the Wood Leaf, Root naturally discovered the abnormality outside their base and quickly sent people to check the situation. What the group of Root ninjas saw at this moment was a Sword Chi Dragon Pearl with a blue luster surging on the ground. If you want to describe it, there is a sentence that might be more appropriate: the heavens and earth turn, the earth dragon rises from the ground. The Sword Chi Dragon Pearl looked like it was surging in the waves, raging on the ground. From time to time, ear-piercing sounds like the clashing of swords could be heard. It made everyone's head dizzy. "Captain, isn't that the strange dragon pearl that appeared in the sky when the Nine Tails attacked the village?" A Root ninja saw the sword energy dragon and couldn't help but recall the time when the Kyubi attacked the village. He fought with the Kyubi for a long time and fought with the Kyubi for a long time. Sword Chi Dragon Pearl. The captain muttered to himself. It seems that the squad really failed in their mission. Nangongzhi has already found them. I will go inside and inform Danzo, Sama, you guys keep an eye on this Nangongzhi. After saying this, the captain turned around and wanted to enter the Root base. But a figure suddenly appeared at the entrance of the Root base. It was a person with a wrapped right eye and a right hand wrapped in black clothes. The person who came is the leader of the Wood Leaf Root, Shimura Danzo. Looking at Nangongzhi's powerful appearance at the moment, Danzo's mouth actually showed a rare smile. Not bad, not bad. As expected of the person I took a fancy to, he really didn't let me down. Not only did he not take away his sister, but he also tracked us to our base. And now, he even used such a magical move. I don't know how much stronger he is compared to 3 years ago. Very good, I am more and more interested in pulling him into the Root base. After saying this, Danzo looked at the Root squad captain who was about to inform him. His eyes became cold as he said, "Is this how you patrol the perimeter of the base?" They only found out after such a big commotion. That's really something. The captain's legs began to tremble uncontrollably at this moment. Others may not know, but as a member of Root and a captain, the captain was very clear about Danzo's terror and power. Danzo, Sama, it's not that we didn't patrol properly. You also saw that Nangongzhi is so strong, even if we wanted to stop him. The captain hurriedly defended himself. After all, the captain was just an elite chunin. Nangongzhi's Sword Chi Dragon Pearl plowed a 3-meter deep hole on the ground just by brushing past it. If a small shrimp like the captain really rushed up, he would probably be ground to pieces in an instant. Chapter 133. Danzo just quietly listened to his subordinate's explanation without any change in his expression. It was as if he was listening to a story that had nothing to do with him. Not only did he not feel anything, but he also felt a little dispirited. Are you done? Finally, when the squad leader wanted to say something, he saw Danzo's expression. His legs immediately went soft, and he knelt on the ground. Sir. Sir. I beg you, since I joined Roots, I have been doing my best. I have done a lot of dirty work, even if I don't have any merits, I still have some hard work. Please spare my life on account of my unwavering loyalty to Root, my lord. Sir. At this moment, the squad leader seemed to realize that his explanation was useless, so he hurriedly told Danzo how loyal he was to Roots, and how much he longed for another chance to prove himself. However, Danzo still didn't change his expression. It seemed like Danzo was tired of the squad leader's words. If this goes on, maybe Danzo will start yawning. As soon as he stretched out his hand, a root ninja immediately went to Danzo's side and handed a katana to Danzo with both hands. Danzo looked at the squad leader quietly and put the katana in his hand on the squad leader's neck. If an ordinary person had a katana on their neck, even if the other party was their superior, they would still fight with all their might. After all, if an ordinary person gets angry, blood will splash everywhere, let alone someone who wants to take their life. However, the squad leader could only tremble in fear under Danzo's indifferent gaze. Every member of Roots was brainwashed and trained by Danzo from a young age to become a completely loyal fighting machine. They were the ones who Danzo had a fatal weakness. From the squad leader's performance, he was naturally not a loyal follower of Danzo. If he was really a loyal follower of Danzo, he would have already killed himself. Why bother wasting Danzo's time? Actually, it's normal to fail a mission. Who hasn't failed a mission before? After all, even the Woodleaf White Fang, Hatake Mauso, had given up on a mission before. Your strength is far inferior to Hatake Mauso's, so failing the mission is not something unforgivable. Danzo's expression instantly turned amiable. If he ignored the machete he was holding against the captain's neck, perhaps Danzo would look more like an uncle next door. However, your real mistake wasn't failing the mission. Instead, he underestimated the enemy, was impatient, and found excuses for himself. When you kidnapped Nangong Ro, you didn't check if there was any hidden mark on her body. Instead, you used the talisman that I gave you. The talisman is indeed powerful, but it's not omnipotent. Second, after capturing Nangong Ro, you acted like a fool and went straight to our base. Although I gave you a time limit for the mission, that time was enough for you to find and even get rid of the people who were following you, but you still didn't do anything. Finally. This is what makes me angry the most. Failure, arrogance, impatience, these things are human nature. Even if I am angry with you, I won't harm your family, but you have been looking for excuses for yourself. You are forcing me to take you, kill. Chicken. Dog. Monkey. Danzo's last 4 words were full of murderous intent. Directly, the head of the squad leader was thrown into the air. Blood gushed out from his neck. Danzo didn't pay attention to the body of the squad leader who was still in a kneeling position. Instead, he looked at Nangong Zhe. I have already seen through it. I don't know what method this kid used to destroy the center of the formation and absorb the formation's energy at the same time. But I am too lazy to stop him. Since I want to subdue him, I naturally have to defeat him when he is at his strongest. Come on. Let me see what you look like after you've completely absorbed the power of the formation. Danzo muttered to himself, but Nangong Zhe naturally couldn't hear it. However, Nangong Zhe was also very puzzled. The commotion he created wasn't small. No matter how stupid the root ninjas were, they should have organized a force to stop him after such a long time. Originally, Nangong Zhe had expected that he would only be able to absorb half of the 36 central nodes, which meant that he would have made a profit by absorbing 18 of them. However, Nangong Zhe had already absorbed 27 of them. Only the 9 strongest central points had yet to be absorbed. This made Nangong Zhe feel a little flustered, because all of this was too illogical. Fine, fine. Since I can absorb more natural energy, I'll be able to increase my own strength. Why not? Even if Danzo really has some kind of plan. That way, I can have more bargaining chips to fight him head-on. Nangong Zhe thought for a while and finally figured it out. He directly absorbed the natural energy that was easily scattered by the sword energy dragon without any scruples. Time passed by like this, with Nangong Zhe's eagerness and Danzo's indifference, time naturally passed faster. Boom! A loud explosion occurred on the ground. This was the sound of Nangong Zhe breaking through the last and strongest center of the formation. The energy wave instantly swept the surrounding ground. The trees near the center of the energy wave were also overturned by the energy wave. They became crooked, and a few were uprooted by the energy wave and thrown into the distance. Nangongzhi finally absorbed all the natural energy. He felt his aura and the energy level of the sword energy dragon. Nangongzhi knew that this is already the strongest power he can exert. This is also the only chance Nangongzhi has to fight for his life. If he can't fight against Danzo like this, Nangongzhi can only desperately rescue Little Linger and Mashiro, and directly use the formation to teleport them to the different space where the Lion Clan is, and wait for the limelight to pass before returning to the ninja world. Of course, now is not the time to think about the escape route. Now, Nangongzhi only needs to fight to the death. Seize all possible opportunities to win, and fight against Danzo head-on. Fight. And then win. Only in this way can Nangongzhi realize the martial arts spirit in his heart. Maybe this is also the time when Nangongzhi breaks through the bottleneck, and truly combines the three elements of heart, technique, and physique into one, breaking through to the so-called Kage level. This battle had to be fought. Chapter 134. Danzo. Nangongzhi looked at Danzo, who was standing on the ground, and for a moment, his face became ugly. Because in Nangongzhi's view, even if he is not the strongest person in Woodleaf, he is still a powerful Woodleaf ninja. However, Danzo simply watched Nangongzhi destroy the Root Guard's formation with an indifferent look on his face. He didn't even try to stop Nangongzhi. If you have to describe Nangongzhi's mood at this moment, it's like a lion performing on a stage. Baring his fangs, he wantonly showed his strength. But a beast tamer just stood beside the lion with an indifferent face, quietly watching the lion pretending to be strong, gently stroking the slightly rough leather whip in his hand, waiting for the lion to feel the proudest and give it a fierce whip, making the lion completely submit. Just like that, he became a well-behaved cat that can only submit to his own strength. Nangongzhi's sword energy dragon was staring at Danzo and the group of root ninjas behind Danzo. Originally, under the deterrence of dragon's might, the legs of many root ninjas were slightly trembling due to fear. If one could see through the white masks painted with various patterns on their faces. If you look at the white mask on their faces, you can even see that most of their faces are slightly pale, and because of the pressure, their faces are unnaturally flushed. But Danzo just quietly looked at Nangongzhi's sword energy dragon without a trace of fear. He just had an indifferent expression, as if no matter how strong Nangongzhi is, no matter how powerful the sword energy dragon is, it can't affect Danzo's heart at all. Hero? Dragon? Danzo didn't care about any of this. It seems that as long as Danzo wants, the dragon can turn into an ordinary snake in an instant, and the so-called hero can turn into a corpse lying at Danzo's feet. Nangongzhi? Sword energy dragon? Not bad. Danzo nodded, as if he was praising a junior. His tone was somewhat gratified and emotional. Actually, from the first step you took in Woodleaf, I saw the battle between you and Kakashi. A person from a poor background, relying on an ancient training method that has been eliminated by the times, can actually compete with Woodleaf's genius Hatake Kakashi. This is really rare, so when Sandem-sama proposed to directly upgrade you to a Chunin, I voted in favor of it. After that, the mission files and records of your battles with the enemy village were placed on my desk almost every time. At that time, I made up my mind to recruit a person like you to Roots. Nangongzhi didn't expect that Danzo would notice a small shrimp like him before he made a name for himself. Nangongzhi was really surprised, but Nangongzhi still shook his head and said, "That is also to thank you for your trust in me. I also understand that if I reject you this time, then our positions will instantly be on opposite sides. But I still don't want to join Roots and become a ruthless person who harvests lives. So, perhaps because of Shi's personality, I and Root Shi are destined to be on opposite sides." But when he heard Nangongzhi's words, Danzo couldn't help but laugh. Ruthless? Is this your impression of Roots? Isn't it? As long as it can complete the mission, all actions are allowed. They can obviously use other methods to achieve their goals, but they still insist on killing people for fun. If this kind of organization isn't ruthless, then I really don't know how ruthless they are. Hearing Nangongzha's words, Danzo's smile only increased, and he laughed even more heartily. Wantonly killing people? What kind of people do we deal with? I believe Nangongzha, you should know. They are nothing more than corrupt officials, or rich merchants who prey on the common people, or even ninjas who betray the village or spies who want to spy on the wood leaf. We killed the family of an official, and you said that we killed the innocent. But the money that the official embezzled, did his family not spend it all? We killed the servants and family of the rich merchants, and the family naturally enjoyed the ointment that the rich merchants took from the common people's bones. Aren't those servants also accomplices of the rich merchants who prey on the common people? There are also the ninjas who betray the village and the spies from other ninja villages. You don't need me to tell you, the main thing is that the people who dare to hide them are also spies planted by the D people. Now, do you still think that the ninjas of Roots are a group of emotionless machines? Every Root ninja is not emotionless, but they are a group of people who display their love to the extreme, and their feelings to the extreme. I believe that every ninja of Roots can proudly say that they are a hero who abandoned their personal honor and disgrace and dedicated everything to the wood leaf. I did use a lot of harsh means to deal with them, but none of them are fools. If Roots is really a place that survives by relying on the rule of terror, why do more and more people join Roots every year and become a member of Roots? And why are they willing to risk their lives for Roots? When you came to my door and blindly emphasized your nobility and greatness, did you think about what I said? Danzo said calmly, although his tone was still indifferent. But there was a kind of high-spirited will contained in it. Every ninja who stood behind Danzo, who originally had some fear in their hearts, extinguished the fear in their hearts at this moment. Instead, they straightened their backs and proudly held their heads high. For a moment, their momentum was incomparably high. There was indeed a reason why Root was able to grow into such a behemoth, and even be able to compete with the Dark Group and even suppress them. Whether it is Danzo or the Roots ninjas, they are full of confidence in themselves. They firmly believe that everything they do is beneficial to Konoha, and they are all things that are worthy of their hearts. Oh. Nangongzha was slightly shocked after hearing Danzo's words. But Nangongzha quickly recovered his consciousness and said, I have to say, Danzo, Sama's grasp of human nature and the skill of using words is extremely profound. At least, even people like me feel that what you are doing is right. But so what if it's right, and so what if it's wrong? You have neglected an important thing, and that is, I don't care whether the wood leaf becomes stronger or more rotten. Wood leaf has never been my home, I just regard it as a place for me to stay. You kidnapped Mashiro and Little Linger, and that is enough for me to stand on the opposite side of you. Chapter 135. Nangongzha's words caught Danzo off guard. Using Konoha as a temporary place to stay? Danzo never thought that Nangongzha's concept of woodleaf would be so simple and crude. In Danzo's view, woodleaf is simply the best place to settle down in the war-torn world. And everyone who joins woodleaf will unknowingly fall in love with woodleaf, and regard themselves as a member of woodleaf. Danzo never thought that there would be a person who would regard woodleaf as an insignificant place to stay. Sure enough. I said that with Yuan Fei's ability to see through people, how could he not notice your extraordinariness? Instead, he just let you be, and only let you perform tasks when you are needed. So that's how it is, so that's how it is. Danzo was so angry that he laughed and pointed at Nangongzha with one hand, as if he was laughing at himself for doing all these things to Nangongzha. Everything in my plan is based on the fact that you will use Konoha as a place for yourself to stay. But you gave me a different answer to all my plans, who would have thought of it? The infamous Yama of Woodleaf didn't put Woodleaf in his heart at all. Interesting. I only caught that woman named Mashiro, I didn't care about that Nangong Ling. He just did something secretly and urgently transferred her out of Konoha's territory. You can take this woman called Mashiro back. Although the plan failed, you won't join my faction, nor will you join the Hokage clan's faction. This result is enough. With that, Danzo waved his hand, indicating his men to bring out the captured Mashiro. Danzo-sama. A root ninja standing next to Danzo seemed to want to say something, but Danzo stared at him. The root ninja could only stare at Nangongja fiercely to express his dissatisfaction. However, he still turned around and led his subordinates to bring Mashiro out of the base that had already been exposed. After a while, Mashiro was escorted by several root ninjas to Danzo's side. There were some tears on Mashiro's clothes, and her skin was torn open. After seeing Nangongja, Mashiro anxiously said to Nangongja, Miyagi, go quickly. These people want to use me to threaten you, don't care about me, go find Roar, Mei and Little Linger. Take them and leave quickly, don't come back. Danzo glanced at Mashiro and seemed to admire Mashiro's character. There was a slight smile on the corner of his mouth. You are useless to me, I will release you now. Although Root is not afraid of provoking Nangongja, it is indeed not a good choice to be enemies with Nangongja. Danzo waved his hand, and the root ninjas who were holding Mashiro let go of Mashiro. They let Mashiro walk to Nangongja to prove that Root is not hostile to Nangongja. Mashiro was already injured, so the actions of the root ninjas weren't that gentle either. So when Mashiro was released, he staggered and almost fell to the ground. But Mashiro didn't care that his clothes were stained with mud, and his face was dirty with mud. Just like that, he stumbled toward Nangongja. When Nangongja was sure that there was no movement from Root, he urged the Sword Energy Dragon to circle up and wrap Mashiro in it. This was to prevent the Root ninjas from coming up with any tricks. Mashiro, Nangongja's figure came out of the Sword Energy Dragon's reverse scale and came to Mashiro's side. He called Mashiro's name and gently hugged Mashiro, who was covered in wounds. She gently patted Mashiro's head with one hand and said softly, "Don't worry, I will never let Root threaten you again. Since I promised you back then, I will protect you well and treat you as my real family. I will do my best to protect you and not let you suffer the slightest grievance." After saying that, Nangongja even intentionally or unintentionally glanced at Danzo, who was standing in front of the root ninjas. Nangongja, remember our agreement. From today onwards, you will not stand on my side or Yuan Fei's side. Danzo didn't pay attention to Nangongja's eyes, but he emphasized the deal between them. Of course, although I don't like your way of doing things. But I have always been a man of my word. Since I promised you, I will not go back on my word. Nangongja said, but Danzo frowned with some dissatisfaction. I never believe a person's promise. Since there is an agreement, I naturally have to leave something as proof. Nangongja naturally heard about Danzo's suspicion. So Nangongja was not surprised that Danzo would make such a proposal. Proof? You want? Before Nangongja could finish his words, Nangongja's abdomen was pierced by a kunai. Even Li Yang's black armor couldn't stop this kunai. Chakra formed a thin layer of sharp edge on the edge of the kunai. This kunai was made of rare chakra metal. It was extremely sharp. The proof I want is very simple. Since you can't join either Root or Hokage's faction, isn't the best proof to hand over your life? Only in this way, you won't have the slightest chance to go back on your word. Danzo said. Nangongja was familiar with Root. They were ruthless and never believed anyone except for their own people and the dead. It's just that Nangongja couldn't accept that the one who showed him a kunai was the girl in his arms, Mashiro. Mashiro, who was buried in Nangongja's arms, raised her head. Her face was full of tears. She should be extremely angry with Mashiro. However, Nangongja maintained his usual gentle smile as he looked at the tearful young lady. Why are you crying? It's me who was stabbed." Hearing Nangong's words, Mashiro cried even harder. "Are you a fool? I'm a member of Root." There was no such thing as Mashiro from the beginning. There was only a Root ninja named Sky. From the very beginning, I was sent to spy on you. If the situation went wrong, I would be the one who killed you. Why are you still smiling at me? Why do you still believe in me? You already knew." Nangong's hand was still on Mashiro's head, gently stroking it. "I do know that you are related to Root. But you are wrong about one thing, the girl named Mashiro was never an illusory existence. From the beginning, you knew almost nothing about life. Sometimes you were a fool, but now you are the one who took care of my daily life. It's you who changed unknowingly, making me treat you as a real family member. I said, I won't let you be threatened by Root again. What does this have to do with whether you are a member of Root or not?" Chapter 136. Are you an idiot? I've already betrayed you like this. Mashiro looked at Nangongja and couldn't help but ask. In Mashiro's eyes, Nangongja had never done anything impulsive in front of her. However, Mashiro knew very well that Nangongja would show his cruel and cold-blooded side when he was really angry. Mashiro learned this from observing Nangongja's daily state and some information from Root. Otherwise, how did Nangongja get his title of King of Hell? However, if Nangongja really did it, it would be fine. That's fine, it won't make Masabai feel any more guilty. You're talking about this thing? Nangongja grabbed Mashiro's kunai and slowly pulled it out of his abdomen. Although Mashiro was holding the kunai in her hand, Mashiro didn't have any strength left. She could only watch as Nangongja slowly pulled the kunai out. Blood splattered everywhere as the kunai was pulled out. You don't have any more now, right? Nangongja looked at Mashiro and revealed an extremely gentle smile. It was as if the person who was bleeding was someone who had nothing to do with him. Mashiro looked at Nangongja and felt that her throat was stuck. She clearly wanted to say something, but she couldn't make a sound. She clearly wanted to break free from Nangongja's embrace and push him far away, but she didn't have any strength left. She could only nestle in Nangongja's embrace. Indecisive and soft-hearted. Originally, I had some expectations for you and thought that you were a ruthless character like me. But in the end, you're only at this level? Danzo looked at Nangongja and Mashiro who were cuddling with each other. His eyes were filled with disappointment. He felt that his judgment of Nangongja might have been wrong. She was a person who cared about love and could forgive others with a smile even if she was stabbed in the back. How could he be a ruthless character? It was really disappointing. Indeed, sometimes I don't act like a qualified ninja. Many times, after I kill someone, I feel a strong sense of guilt shrouding my heart. For some unknown people, I will accept them with the greatest kindness. Perhaps in your eyes, Danzo-sama's eyes, these things are simply inconceivable. But I have never regretted it. Because, although I'm a ninja, I've never thought that I'm a qualified ninja. Resentment, love, hatred, kindness and malice. As a ninja, you have to use the greatest malice to guess the opponent's mind. But, how many people have broken through the boundary of good and evil, or even directly fallen to the side of darkness? Nangongja's words were actually a kind of interrogation for himself. Was he good or evil, cruel or merciful? When Nangongja spoke these words, the answers to all these questions in Nangongja's heart began to become clear. I've thought for a long time, and I realized that I don't know whether I'm good or evil. Because I've actually stepped into both, but now I'm not willing to agree with either. Good and evil is the biggest lie of human nature. It's an illusory rule made up by groups of people. They use words and habits to fabricate such an invisible shackle to bind all life. Everyone is like this, whether it's the evil person who brings disaster to the world or the kind person who saves the world. In fact, they all follow this rule intentionally or unintentionally, so that they unconsciously become more like the good person or the evil person in the world's perception. In this way, for a long time in the cage, unable to transcend, unable to be free. How can such a person achieve transcendence and freedom? Nangong's words were rebellious, and it made people at a loss. If they really had to use a word to describe it, it might be only this word, madman. No one knew who it was that let out such a slight exclamation. But it made everyone, including Danzo, slightly agree in their hearts. Madman? That's good. Banishment. Senpai once told me a sentence from a wise man: others laugh at me for being too crazy, I laugh at others for not being able to see through it. I didn't understand at that time. But now I'm slightly touched. It doesn't matter if you're crazy or sober. As long as a person can face himself seriously and recognize himself. Even if he's a madman, he's still happy and happy. On the contrary, he's submissive in the consciousness of others. Even if he's really praised by everyone, his mind will not be clear in the end. Of course, Danzo didn't know who the banishment Senpai Nangongja was talking about was. Such a hero had long been submerged in the dust of history, intentionally or unintentionally. But Nangongja's words still fiercely knocked on Danzo's heart, and he couldn't help but secretly ask himself in his heart. Was he indulging in unwillingness and humiliation, and gradually lost himself? But before Danzo had time to think deeply, he was already attracted by Nangongja's state. After Nangongja finished speaking, his body's aura began to become extremely unstable. It was sometimes strong and sometimes weak, and it was impossible to understand. Danzo naturally saw Nangongja's abnormality, because Danzo also went through this stage. This was a sign that a person's mental and physical state had reached saturation and began to blend with each other, allowing a person's strength to reach the strongest state. Everyone's way of breaking through to the Kage level was not fixed. Not to mention others, Danzo reached the Kage level because of the intense humiliation and unwillingness in his heart when he didn't get the position of Hokage. As for Nangongja, he was even more surprising. He actually began to analyze his own mind, and began to break through to the Kage level under the condition of understanding his heart. If it was in a normal state, a slight noise may be able to interrupt the process of a person's promotion. This process was so fragile. But at this moment, Nangongja's body was surrounded by a powerful sword chi dragon, unconsciously forming a barrier that separated him from the outside world. And the only person who could possibly interrupt Nangongja's promotion was Mashiro, who was also surrounded by the sword chi dragon. But looking at Mashiro's current state, Danzo was sure that even if he gave any order that could endanger Nangongja, Mashiro would definitely ignore it without hesitation. TSK. This is why I hate love so much. It's really a waste of time. Danzo couldn't help but secretly curse, but other than that, he could only watch Nangongja's promotion process without being able to stop it. Chapter 137. The sword is a vicious weapon since the ancient times. Although some people say that it is the king of all weapons, it cannot change its nature. It has become a tool to reap lives. Therefore, if a person uses the sword with good intentions, then the sword can save people and support the world. If a person uses the sword with evil intentions, then the sword can slaughter thousands of people. The sword will always be a tool. The only one who can decide the fate of the sword is the person holding it. Some people say that I am a demon who kills people like scything flax. Some people say that I am a cruel and violent madman. However, I am me. That person holds a sword and drinks wine. Banishment of those who kill each other and those who save those who want to save. I will always be a banishment. Young man, there will be a day when you see yourself clearly. When that time comes, don't forget. You are just a person, an ordinary person who can still cry and laugh. Just do as you wish. Nangongzhi didn't know what kind of state he was in. He only felt that his whole body was wrapped in a kind of gentle power. Even his abdomen that was stabbed by Mashiro didn't feel any pain now. Mashiro indeed didn't have the intention to kill Nangongzhi. Perhaps it was subconsciously that Mashiro's kunai avoided Nangongzhi's vital points. Although he lost a lot of blood, it didn't affect Nangongzhi much. Looking at the lifelike but somewhat illusory figure of the banishment standing in front of him, Nangongzhi knew that this was the moment when he was about to leave the illusion created by the banishment. The banishment was the last thing he entrusted to him. He didn't know if the banishment had expected that with Nangongzhi's character, he would inevitably face this kind of interrogation. It was an inconspicuous sentence back then, but now it sounded like it was specially said to Nangongzhi at this moment. I didn't expect that even after Senior disappeared from the world for 3 years, I would still listen to Senior's teachings. Huh. Nangongzhi smiled faintly. Although there was a little complaint in his tone, it was more of a deep nostalgia. Although she hadn't spent much time with banishment, her charisma had left a deep impression on her. He had learned about Nangongzhi's attitude and way of doing things. He looked at the person standing in front of him who had finished speaking. With a pair of sharp sword-like eyes, he looked straight at her smiling face. Nangongzhi also smiled. Whether it was the outline of his mouth or the posture, it was very similar to banishment. Senior, you once told me that in ancient times, there was a kind of person who didn't fear life or death, who didn't fear hardships. They used their own martial arts to carry out their own hearts. They were respectfully called Xianxia, by people. They did whatever they wanted, but they were chivalrous in their hearts. I think, perhaps in the depths of my heart, I also yearn to become such a person. I am willing to hold the 5 feet of heavenly tribulation in my hands and follow my heart. Be a true Xianxia, that I envy. Nangongzhi seemed to be talking to himself, but also seemed to be talking to banishment standing in front of him. Although his words weren't very impassioned, each word was powerful. It wasn't difficult to see that Nangongzhi valued these words. Banishment, who was standing opposite Nangongzhi, suddenly became clear. The smile on his face became wider, and he even nodded slightly at Nangongzhi. It didn't seem like a remnant image in his memory at all. Instead, it seemed like a real senior banishment was standing opposite him. Nangongzhi wanted to say something, but banishment's body had already turned into spots of light and dissipated. Nangongzhi's thoughts were no longer in the warm space. Wisps of cold wind blew on his face. Nangongzhi has returned to reality. Mashiro was still nestled in Nangongzhi's arms, while Danzo looked at Nangongzhi with a complicated expression. As for the root ninjas behind Danzo? Don't mention it. Mashiro, let's go home. Nangongzhi put his mouth close to Mashiro's ear and said softly. After saying that, Nangongzhi raised his head and looked at Danzo. The corner of his mouth actually raised a little bit with a mocking smile. Not good, Nangongzhi is going to go all out. This was Danzo's first thought. But anyone who breaks through the Kage level will have a strange state for a short period of time after breaking through. It's like finding a way to vent after suddenly having excess power. At this moment, isn't Nangongzhi a person who just broke through the Kage level and just happened to have a chance to vent? Nangongzhi waved his hand, and the Dragon Ball sword that originally turned into a sword energy dragon dissipated the sword energy around the sword. It returned to its original appearance. His eyes never left the heavenly calamity sword's body, as if he was preparing something. His hand that was holding the heavenly tribulation sword suddenly trembled. The Dragon Ball sword emitted a kind of fluctuation. In an instant, it affected the entire sword energy dragon. The sword energy dragon expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the aura also changed from the originally stable to violent. Danzo hurriedly increased the speed of his hand seals, but the seals were not finished yet. The sword chi of the long dragon of sword chi suddenly erupted. The powerful light, the huge energy wave, and the sword energy that was even smaller than a thin thread that could penetrate through every opening suddenly exploded. There was no loud bang, and the sword energy dragon's explosion swept across the entire land silently. There was a huge cloud of dust in the air, and a gigantic whirlpool formed in the air, absorbing all of the dust that covered everyone's vision. A gigantic silhouette appeared. It was a strange creature with a long elephant trunk that was crouching on the ground at the moment. Below the abdomen of this giant creature, a group of people slowly appeared. At the same time, Danzo summoned his psychic beast, the nightmare taper, the moment the sword aura dragon burst out. He looked at the deep and shallow wounds on the nightmare taper's body that had a shocking defense. Danzo's heart was also filled with fear. If he had not summoned his spiritual beast in time, the base might have suffered a serious loss this time. A large number of members would lose their combat ability, and the precious information in the base would be destroyed. Those were the consequences that Danzo could not bear. Nangongzhe. I can't believe it's a disaster because of my carelessness. However, misfortune may be a blessing in disguise. My plan to exterminate the Uchiha tribe can't handle a variable like Nangongzhe in the wood leaf. Although there are losses in this operation, we've forced Nangongzhe out of the wood leaf's range. It's just nice to compensate for the losses with the Sharingan. Danzo waved and turned around, walking to the only part of the base that was not destroyed under the nightmare taper's protection. Chapter 138. When Nangongzhe reappeared, he was already in the alternate dimension of the lion tribe. Brother, are you hurt? Nangongro was anxiously waiting at the teleportation point of the lion tribe. Not much time had passed since Nangongzhe sent his sister to the alternate dimension of the lion tribe to Nangongzhe rescuing Mashiro. Therefore, Nangongro had been waiting near the teleportation point, hoping to see her brother as soon as possible to confirm if Nangongzhe was hurt. It's nothing, just some superficial wounds. It doesn't affect anything. I already know that Little Linger wasn't captured. I'll go find Little Linger now and bring her to the alternate dimension of the lion tribe. Nangongzhe's complexion was normal. Although his body was slightly tired, there were no obvious signs of abnormalities. Nangongro also knew that her brother's body was fine. Sister Mashiro, are you okay too? Nangongro looked at Mashiro who was nestled in Nangongzhe's arms and asked. There were many wounds on Mashiro's body, some shallow and some deep. Perhaps the people from Root wanted to confuse Nangongzhe, but they left many wounds on Mashiro's body. Moreover, they didn't hold back at all. Every wound was left on Mashiro's body. At this moment, Mashiro was still a little weak, and her face was sickly pale. He opened his pale mouth, as if he wanted to say something. However, after opening it a few times, she closed her mouth weakly. Nangongzhe could also see that Mashiro might be feeling guilty for stabbing herself, so he helped Mashiro cover up. Alright, Little Linger is still outside, and we can't be completely sure of her safety. Mashiro has never cultivated before, and her body is also weak. Now that I think about it, we can't talk properly. Let her have a good rest. Nangongzhe's words weren't completely flawless. However, Nangongro also knew that Little Linger was in a dangerous state. It wasn't the time to mind Mashiro's problem. Although Nangongzhe knew some emergency bandages, he didn't have time to treat Mashiro. Although her injuries hadn't reached a critical state, she still needed to be treated urgently. Alright, let's not talk anymore. I have to find Little Linger as soon as possible. I'll leave Mashiro to you. Nangongzhe knew that he couldn't lie in front of his sister. The two of them were too familiar with each other. If Nangongzhe had any unnatural behavior, Nangongro wouldn't be able to hide it. Nangongzhe quickly placed True White in front of Nangongro and glanced at Arthur, who was beside him, and said, "Don't worry. Little Arthur, please take care of Sister Mashiro and Sister Ruru, Little Arthur. Roar, don't worry, leave it to me. I, the Lionheart King, am super powerful. Nangongja stepped forward, patted Little Arthur's head, and stepped into the teleportation circle. Nangong Ro and Mashiro looked at Nangongja's back in a daze. Both of them had their own thoughts, but they didn't ask each other about it. Nangong Ro started to treat Mashiro's injuries. In the spatial rift, Nangongja and Li Yang were talking. You hid the matter about Mashiro just like that? Can you really do it? With Nangong Ro's intelligence, it's impossible that she didn't see through it. Nangongja nodded, indicating that he knew how powerful his sister was. Indeed, Ruru definitely knew about it last night. But I still can't tell her about it. Because I understand my sister, just like how she understands me. Nangongja paused for a moment before continuing. Although it seems like Ruru has a good relationship with Mashiro and Little Linger. But that was a situation that could only be maintained when there was no conflict between them. Ruru has been a very opinionated person since she was young. Many times, even if I explained the cause and effect to her, she would still be stubborn. If Ruru really knew that Mashiro was a spy from Root, and even stabbed me, she wouldn't be able to do it. I really don't want to imagine what Ruru would do. Moreover, I teleported her to the Lion Tribe's alternate dimension. She must be regretting that she couldn't help me. Once she knew about Jinbai's situation, she would be completely enraged. She might even do something bad. I have to hide it from her, at least for now. When I have the chance, I'll explain it to her. Nangongja spoke sincerely. Nangongja naturally understood Nangong Ro. Therefore, Li Yang couldn't say anything else. But she still reminded Nangongja. Since you've decided to hide it from her, then I won't say anything else. Then I won't say anything more. But you must pay attention to it. Even if you want Nangong Ro to know something about Mashiro, it must come from your mouth. Otherwise, if an enemy adds oil to the fire, it will be a huge problem to drive a wedge between your family members. Li Yang could be said to be a veteran who had been in the world for a long time. There were some things that Nangongja couldn't think of or didn't want to think of. Li Yang felt that it was his responsibility to remind Nangongja. Good medicine is bitter, but honest advice is unpleasant. There were some things that had to be said. I understand. Nangongja and Li Yang's lives were connected, so there were fewer taboos between them. The best proof was that Nangongja could still listen to Li Yang seriously even though he was talking about such a sensitive topic. Whether it was Li Yang's attitude or her experience, it was an important supplement for Nangongja. When the two of them are together, they are the real Konoha's Yama known by the ninja world. Before Mashiro was captured and brought to Root's base, such a place naturally has a way to block the transmission of space coordinates. I thought that Little Linger and Mashiro were together, so I didn't try to get close to the coordinates through the transmission circle. But now that Little Linger isn't in Root's base, and I have confirmed that Little Linger's coordinates can still be detected, then we can directly go to Little Linger's side and bring Little Linger to the Lion Clan space as soon as possible. Although Little Linger has only been a ninja for a short period of time, now I have to let her get out of the farce of acting as a ninja. Nangongja felt Little Linger's aura, then slowly and quickly moved to the place where Little Linger was. Chapter 139. Ayaya, we finally have a mission that doesn't involve hoeing fields or searching for lost pets. Little Linger was very excited as she walked on the road. In the morning, Little Linger just met up with her instructor. The instructor brought Little Linger a piece of good news. Their class is finally going to accept a mission outside the village. But he didn't say what the mission was, he just said that because the mission was a bit urgent, they had to leave immediately and there was no time to inform their family. Although Little Linger doesn't understand why they can't inform their family, the joy of leaving the village has already rushed to Little Linger's head. Moreover, going with Little Linger is also the Uchiha family's Uchiha Yuri Koyuri. The two of them graduated from the same class, so they were assigned to the same ninja team. The other member of their team is actually in the same class as Little Linger and Mashiro, but his performance has always been mediocre, and he doesn't have a sense of presence. It seems like, his name is something Irika. But Jitian seems to have a fever. This mission can only be carried out by their instructor, Little Linger, and Uchiha Yuri Koyuri. Looking at Little Linger chattering in front of him, Yuri Koyuri seemed to feel that it was very noisy, so he slightly frowned and said, "Nangong Ling, don't be like this, okay? You don't only represent yourself, but also the reputation of Nangong Sensei. Your every move may change people's perception of Nangong Sensei. If you always act like this, it will make Nangong Sensei very embarrassed." In the beginning, Yuri Koyuri didn't like Nangong. But since Yuri Koyuri was selected by Nangong as his class representative, the intersection between the two has become more and more frequent. Yuri Koyuri's impression of Nangong has also begun to change little by little. In Little Linger's words, he has become Nangong's crazy fan. "Humph, I like to be crazy. No matter what I do, Brother Nangong is still my brother. It has nothing to do with you, you can slowly envy him." That's right, Little Linger began to ridicule him. You are simply unreasonable. I'm unreasonable. Well, the two of them stared at each other like that. Little sparks that could be seen with the naked eye burst out between the two of them. However, an ordinary-looking pendant hanging on Linger's chest emitted a burst of green light. Your chest is glowing. Yuri Koyuri was standing opposite Little Linger, so he naturally saw the pendant on Little Linger's chest clearly. Glowing? What glowing? I think you are just envious that Brother Nangong gave it to me. Why is the pendant that Brother Nangong gave me glowing? Suddenly, the pendant slowly floated up from Little Linger's chest. The light began to become brighter and brighter. Suddenly, the pendant emitted a strong green light. It made people unable to see what was in front of them. After the strong light dissipated, their vision gradually recovered. A figure wearing black armor stood near the two of them. Brother Nangong. Nangong. Sensei? Little Linger and Yuri Koyuri simultaneously discovered that the person wearing black armor standing on the ground was Nangong whom they were just talking about. The two girls' cheeks became slightly pink for a moment. However, Nangong didn't care about the performance of the two little girls. Instead, he stared at the Jonin who was walking behind the two little girls. Root? Nangong's tone was slightly gloomy, even the two girls could feel the anger in his voice. Nangong Jonin. Woodleaf Yama? When the instructor saw Nangong, he didn't expect that Nangong would appear here. In fact, this instructor was indeed a ninja from Root, but due to various coincidences, he became a Jonin who led a few genin. Although no one told him directly, the instructor knew that he was a backup plan placed by Root beside Nangong Ling. If the mission failed, then Nangong Ling would become an excellent target for coercion. Root? It was still the same words and the same tone. But Nangong's words made people feel even more gloomy. I am Nangong Ling's instructor Jonin, why must I cooperate with Root? The instructor knew that his identity couldn't be exposed like this. Unless Nangong directly went to Root's personnel department to check the information. Otherwise, it was impossible to find out the slightest bit of information about his identity. So when he spoke, he was actually a little bit fearless. Root. Although Nangong said the same words at this moment, his tone was very firm. Obviously, he had made a conclusion in his heart. Wait. I am. The instructor naturally knew that Nangong wanted to kill him. No matter what kind of person he was, it was impossible for him to be so calm when facing the net. The fear in his heart urged him to explain himself. But Nangong's sword flashed, and the instructor's head flew into the sky just like that. Under the effect of the heart, a column of blood gushed up to the sky. Whether it was Little Linger or Yuri Koyuri, they had never seen such a bloody scene before. For a moment, their stomachs were overturned, and it was as if they were going to vomit. Brother Nangong? After all, Little Linger was closer to Nangongzhe. Although she didn't understand why Nangongzhe wanted to kill this instructor Jonin who treated her well, she still didn't understand. But she still called out Nangongzhe's name with the fear and disgust in her heart. Although Nangongzhe had just killed someone, he wasn't controlled by the emotions of killing someone. Instead, he turned around and told Little Linger the whole story. Of course, Nangongzhe still hid the fact that Mashiro was a fan. So, that organization called Root wanted to kidnap Mashiro-san and Roar-san to threaten Brother to work for them. But Brother saw through it and saved Mashiro-san and Roar-san to the Lion Clan's alternate dimension. Now, Little Linger's instructor Jonin is actually a backup plan left by Root to threaten Brother? Little Linger's tone was a little surprised and uneasy. Little Linger, who was inexperienced in the world, had never seen such a sinister person. For a moment, she was speechless. On the other hand, Yuri Koyuri, who came from a big family, seemed to have endured the fear and disgust of the bloody scene and seemed to be thinking about something. Chapter 140. Nangong Sensei. Root will never recruit a famous ninja for no reason. Because, this is not Root's style at all. Yuri Koyuri said to Nangongzhe. Although Yuri Koyuri usually jested with Little Linger and didn't seem to be scheming. But that's just because Yuri Koyuri didn't want to use too much scheming on a pure person like Little Linger. How can a person who was trained by a big clan like the Uchiha be an ignorant girl? As one of the key clansmen of the Uchiha clan, some records about the Woodleaf forces must be studied. As the root of Konoha's rapid rise, Konoha was feared by many, and Konoha has naturally seen his intelligence. As an organization that specializes in assassination, every ninja recruited must have some kind of connection with Root. If they didn't have a relationship with Root, then they were trained by Root. Although Nangongzhe was strong, he was still a stranger to Root. Now that they wanted to recruit someone they weren't familiar with, the most likely reason was that Root was going to organize a big operation. Their own strength was still a bit lacking, so they used this method to increase their strength. Then, Lily continued, that's right. There are only a few people who can make Root pay so much attention to them. Outer Village ninjas suffered a lot during the Third Shinobi World War, so they naturally won't do stupid things at this juncture, so they can be ruled out. Although the Woodleaf's alliance is already a force that can't be ignored, after all, each of the small clans had many or small conflicts and frictions during the Warring States period. They were wary of each other, and there was no one who was strong enough to lead them. So in fact, it's more than enough to defend but not enough to attack. Such a force is not worth Root's attention. Although the Hokage clan has always been in conflict with Root, they still restrained each other. After the fourth Hokage left the village to investigate the mysterious organization that caused the Nine Tails Rebellion. The Hokage clan's strength has also been greatly weakened. As long as the two sides don't have a fundamental conflict, they won't fight openly. The Hyuga clan's eldest daughter was kidnapped by Kumo Shinobu not long ago. Although there were some complaints because of the Woodleaf, most of the Hyuga leaders didn't mind using a branch family member to end this trouble. Therefore, there is no conflict with Root, which represents Konoha's official power. Moreover, the poor Cataract clan doesn't have the courage to compete with an organization like Root. So, the only force that can make Root make such a big move is actually very obvious. It's the Uchiha clan. Yuri Koyuri's analysis was very reasonable, and his logic was very careful. Automatically blocking some of the Daily Hyuga's remarks was very valuable. But Nangongzhe always felt that Yuri Koyuri was a little too calm at this moment. it was obviously the clan that he grew up in. Yuri Koyuri could be so calm at this moment, it could even be said that he was cold-blooded. Even if he finally concluded that his clan was the target of Root's powerful force, he was still too calm and didn't have any anger or grievance. You're right, Root's target is actually the Uchiha clan. Nangongja confirmed Yuri Koyuri's thoughts, and then said, although I don't know why Root wants to fight with the Uchiha clan, I'm sure that the Uchiha clan is indeed facing a big trouble this time. With Danzo's character, since he's going to make a move, then naturally he's well prepared. Even if he wants to recruit me, it's just a plan to add flowers to the brocade. If it succeeds, it'll be killing two birds with one stone. Not only will it increase their combat power, but it'll also increase their chances of attacking the Uchiha clan. Even if it doesn't succeed, they'll have eliminated an uncertain factor that could disrupt the situation. Although it's a small loss, it'll undoubtedly increase the chances of the plan succeeding. Yuri Koyuri nodded, as if he also felt that Nangongja's analysis was reasonable. But Nangongja couldn't suppress his curiosity, and asked Yuri Koyuri, the place you grew up in is facing such a huge threat at this moment. I really don't understand why you're so calm at this moment. It's actually very simple. Yuri Koyuri didn't want to hide anything from Nangongja, and just said with a calm face, the Uchiha clan is the same as all the other major forces, it's divided into factions. I represent some of the moderate factions, but the current head of the Uchiha clan is a standard radical faction. After he became the head of the clan, because of his background, he greatly suppressed the moderate factions. In this generation, the moderate faction only has the strength to support me, a talented clansman. Although I don't know what this Uchiha Fugaku is planning, but it's nothing more than a serious threat to the interests of Root. So a battle between the two is inevitable. Although I don't want to admit it, the 3 generations Hokage is still reasonable. If Danzo really goes too far, the 3 generations will also come out to stop him. The worst outcome is that the radical faction of the Uchiha clan will be eliminated, and the power of the Uchiha clan will be greatly weakened. For a long time, the Uchiha clan will become a sharp blade that listens to Woodleaf's orders. There's nothing unacceptable about this, and there's always a price to pay for a political defeat. In fact, Yuri Koyuri didn't say that the moderate faction of the Uchiha clan was actually secretly related to the Hokage. If there's a disaster, the Hokage will naturally protect them. Such a secret transaction naturally has to be kept confidential. So Little Linger didn't say anything to Nangongja. Although I don't know why you are so confident in the 3 generations Hokage, but since you didn't say anything, I don't want to interrupt the various details of the Uchiha clan and the Hokage faction. I just want to protect my family, and I don't want to be involved in this kind of troublesome thing. Nangongja said, and then his tone changed, but since Danzo provoked me, I naturally can't let him get what he wants. It's also possible to create some trouble for him at the right time. Chapter 141. Nangong. Brother. What are you guys talking about? Little Linger, why can't I understand? Nangongja and Yuri Koyuri began brainstorming each other, but Little Linger, who was standing on the side, suffered. What's going on today? Little Linger finally received a mission to go out of the village, and she thought that she would have a good trip. But she just quarreled with Yuri Koyuri for a while and ridiculed each other a few times. Then, Nangongja suddenly appeared and killed the Jonin under his guidance. After that, Nangongja began to explain the ins and outs to Little Linger. After listening to her brother Nangong's words, her teammates Yuri Koyuri and brother Nangong began to chatter about a lot of things that Little Linger didn't understand. What small family alliance, what cataract family, what root Uchiha. Little Ling Er's head was a little dizzy from hearing this. Her brain couldn't wrap itself around it, so Little Linger had to call her brother Nangong. Looking at Little Linger's face that was about to turn into a mosquito coil, Nangongja suddenly realized that he seemed to be too protective of Little Linger. He clearly persuaded Yabuki to let Sakura go to the ninja school to learn self-defense methods, but now it's his turn to be overprotective of little Linger. Sure enough, people are just people who know it's easy to do it. Little Linger's innocence and kindness are what Nangongzhe and many people close to Nangongzhe lack. Only when he sees the pure and kind little Linger, can Nangongzhe be reminded of his own heart. This is the charm of little Linger, and the most precious part. Nangongzhe smiled gently and put his hand on little Linger's head. He gently caressed her, and Shaoling Air was just like a kitten, smiling leisurely. It's okay, it's just a small trouble. I'll solve it soon, but little Linger, you'll have to stay with Mashiro-san and Ruru-san in the Lion Clan space for a while. Hearing Nangongzhe's words, little Linger's smile suddenly disappeared, and her small mouth flattened, as if she was very unwilling. Little Linger, don't, I've just become a ninja. I just want to carry out a few super missions and surprise my brothers and sisters. But why do I have to go so far so soon? Little Linger also has a childish temper, and her expression can be said to change at will. But Nangongzhe has long been used to little Linger's various expressions. After all, they have lived together for a long time. The degree of understanding between them is extremely high. But Big Brother still has very important things to do. Mashiro-san and Ruru-san are both in the Lion Clan space. Big Brother really doesn't have the spare energy to take care of them, so I want to ask little Linger to help Big Brother. Now that little Linger is unhappy and doesn't want to help Big Brother, what should I do? The moment Nangongzhe's words left his mouth, it could be considered to have intimidated little Linger. Her small mouth was no longer pouting. Instead, her pair of small eyes were rolling around. It was obvious that she was considering Nangongzhe's words. Good. This is the time to pursue the victory. And there's a talking kitten in the Lion Clan space, little Linger, don't you want to see it? This sentence can be said to be the last straw that broke the camel's back. Little Linger, who was still in a dilemma, instantly became excited and shouted, I want to go. I want to go. Little Linger wants to help Big Brother take care of the two sisters and the talking kitten. Phew. Nangongzhe let out a heavy breath. It can be said that little Linger was tricked. So he turned his head to look at Yuri Koyuri standing next to him. Although Yuri Koyuri looks very mature, he is still an 11 or 12-year-old child after all. Things like talking kittens and alternate dimensions were still very fascinating. A pair of bright eyes looked at Nangongzhe. Nangongzhe naturally knows that Yuri Koyuri also wants to go to the Lion Clan space. This is not a troublesome matter. Yuri Koyuri thought too much of the kindness of the three generations and Danzo's thinking. Nangongzhe actually has contact with both of them. Neither of them is easy to deal with. Gentle? Kind? Cruel? Sinister? Both of them are gathered together. After all, Yuri Koyuri is his student. The relationship between the two was quite close, so Nangongzhe took the opportunity to say, Yuri Koyuri. You also go to the Lion Clan space with little Linger, right? But, although Yuri Koyuri's analysis has reached the point of indifference, when Nangongzhe really wants Yuri Koyuri to get out of this matter, Yuri Koyuri's heart inevitably hesitated. Don't worry, Master's matter will be solved by Master. You are just a child. No matter how much you want to do something, you are still lacking in both strength and intellect. Whether it's strength or scheming, you're still lacking. I'm not willing to let you and Linger face such a thing at such a young age. Go to the Lion Clan space with little Linger to lie low for a while. When the dust settles, I will bring you back. Nangongzhe spoke with sincerity. He did not hide his intention to protect her at all. Yuri Koyuri also knows that it is best for him and little Linger to follow Nangongzhe to the Lion Clan space to lie low for a while. So he nodded and agreed to Nangongzhe's proposal. So Nangongzhe inserted the Heaven's Disaster Sword into the ground, grabbed the two little girls' hands, and took them through the space-time gap to the Lion Clan space. After all, the environment of the Lion Clan space is somewhat different from the ninja world. The two little girls were also attracted by the environment of the Lion Clan space. Nangongja? You're back so soon? Little Lion Arthur felt the fluctuation of space and knew that Nangongja had returned, so he hurriedly ran to greet Nangongja. Is Mashiro okay? Nangongja did not forget to ask about Mashiro's situation. After all, Mashiro suffered the most serious injury among them. It doesn't matter anymore, Ruru-san has already bandaged Mashiro-san's wound. It's just that Mashiro-san seems to be too tired and has already fallen asleep. Roar-san is still watching Mashiro-san's bed just in case. Little Arthur's mouth was quite smooth, and he explained the matter in a few words. Little Linger and Yuri Koyuri also broke free from the magnificent scenery of the Lion Clan space. Seeing little Arthur, who was bragging to Nangongja about how much effort he put in when bandaging the wound, the two little girls exclaimed and rushed to little Arthur. Wow! There really is a talking kitten. Its fur is so smooth. Little Arthur was dumbfounded, but when he regained his senses, he shouted loudly, "Don't worry. This Lionheart King is a lion, and Nangongja, come and save me." Nangongja had long disappeared. It was better to die than to die. Little Arthur, I wish you a safe life under the ravages of the little girls. Chapter 142. Woodleaf Village, Changi Alley. This is an alley that is not often mentioned by people, but it is a long alley in Woodleaf Village that is hard to ignore. This is the place where some of the messengers from big forces and big merchants live in Woodleaf Village. Because these people are not short of money, this is almost the most entertaining street in Woodleaf Village. Countless merchants opened their shops here side by side, one by one. The basic legal industries of Woodleaf Village were quietly distributed here. In an ordinary courtyard in Changi Alley, Nangongja was standing inside at the moment, holding a small and exquisite wine glass. Nangongja obviously changed his appearance. The originally dark long hair like a waterfall has now turned into a black and white bun on his head. His eyebrows were also trimmed, the sharp eyebrows were trimmed slightly, and with some disguise methods, his face became a little abnormal white. Impressively, he has turned into a sick and weak noble son. Some people may ask, obviously ninjas have a very convenient transformation technique. Directly from the body to the hair, and the clothes on the body can be changed. Why did Nangongja use such a primitive method to cover his face? It is very simple, because Nangongja doesn't know how to do it. As a person who cultivates internal force, Nangongja really doesn't know how to use chakra to change his appearance. He can only rely on some of the disguise techniques he learned when performing tasks in various parts of the ninja world to change his appearance. However, this is not without benefits, because the essence of the transformation technique is actually a kind of genjutsu. Relying on the chakra covering the whole body, setting up a layer of genjutsu to cover the body, some powerful and experienced ninjas can quickly see through some of the less detailed transformation jutsu and perceive the energy fluctuations of the ninjutsu. Nangongja's genjutsu is the least dangerous way to change his appearance. In the past few days, Nangongja has been staying in Changi Alley, mingling with representatives of various families and merchants. Although most of these people have no strength, they can rely on their weak bodies to mix in the ninja world for so many years. Their knowledge and ability to collect information can't be underestimated. In addition, Nangongja disguised himself as a sick and weak rich son, which made these people lower their vigilance a little. After Nangongja's extravagant spending of money and wind, flower, snow, and moon's ramblings, a few of the relatively famous people in Changi Alley had already started calling Nangongja their brother. These days, although on the surface, Woodleaf Village is as usual. However, there are more people in all important places. Some important messengers got the news that Woodleaf Village has found some ninjas from other villages, so they raised the level of alert. But everyone knows that although Woodleaf Village lost a lot of power in the previous Third Shinobi World War and Nine Tails attack, but in the Third Shinobi World War, each village also lost a lot of power. It's time to rest, no one will start a war so easily. Those merchants and noble messengers don't know where to go, but I know. In the past few days, Danzo and the three generations have reached a tacit understanding. In 1 or 2 days, they will make a move on the Uchiha clan. Humph. Now that the enemy is in the light and I'm in the dark, what should I do to disturb the three generations and the insidious Danzo-sama? Nangongja took a sip of the wine in his small glass. Although his tone was asking, he didn't hesitate at all. Obviously, he already had a plan in his heart. The key is Itachi Uchiha. Nangongja himself has been thinking for a long time. He has been thinking about how Danzo and the three generations will deal with the Uchiha clan. Although the Uchiha clan is not as strong as the Uchiha clan when they first built the village, but over the years, the Uchiha clan has been accumulating their strength, and in each generation, there will be several amazing new talents. Moreover, even if Danzo and the three generations really want to face the Uchiha clan at all costs, they also have to consider the thoughts of the other Woodleaf clans. Originally, when the village was built, everyone agreed to build the village together. In other words, every clan is a shareholder of the Woodleaf joint venture. Senju, Uchiha, and Hyuga are the biggest shareholders. As for the other small families, they were also shareholders. Now, the Woodleaf clan has developed and become one of the most powerful clans in the shinobi world. The power of the Hokage clan has also expanded rapidly. Originally, it was only the power of Senju clan, but now, it has gradually integrated with the power of Sarutobi, Nara, Akimichi, Yamanaka, Shimura, and the Uzumaki clans scattered in the shinobi world. They have also developed the Umbu under Hokage's direct command and Konoha's route. Every small clan began to feel a little uneasy. Am I really one of the owners of the Woodleaf clan now? Don't say that the Woodleaf is my family, we all love her. The strength of the Woodleaf clan is our strength. Such a hypocritical lie. Every clan that has struggled to survive since the Warring States period, there is no one who doesn't get up early without benefits. If the Uchiha clan has really launched a rebellion, then all the small clans naturally have nothing to say, and even send their own forces to help the Hokage clan suppress the Uchiha clan. But Danzo is selfish, he wants to collect the Sharingan of the Uchiha clan. How can he allow others to take such a piece of the cake? At this moment it is an irreconcilable contradiction. Once the Uchiha clan is destroyed, the small clans will inevitably think about it. Even a powerful clan like the Uchiha clan was destroyed by the Hokage clan. What ability do they have to protect themselves? When the Uchiha clan is destroyed, it inspires more people to rebel against the Hokage clan's rule. It is really a stupid act. Therefore, the Woodleaf clan must put out a person who is willing to take all the blame and not let people suspect. After thinking about it, Nangongja didn't know how much information he collected. He found that this candidate is impressively the eldest son of the Uchiha clan's head Uchiha Fugaku, Itachi Uchiha. First of all, Itachi Uchiha is the son of the Uchiha clan's head. Naturally, he has the opportunity to discover the Uchiha clan's bad intentions. Second, Itachi Uchiha can be said to be the most upright and righteous person among all the Uchiha ninjas, which gives Itachi Uchiha a reason to sacrifice his own clan for the Woodleaf clan. Third, Itachi Uchiha has a weakness that can't be ignored, and that is, compared to his younger brother Sasuke's doting. When Itachi Uchiha is not on a mission, he spends all his time with his younger brother. Once Danzo and the three generations use Uchiha and Sasuke as a threat, it is very likely that he will become a puppet in the hands of Danzo and the three generations. It is too easy to manipulate. Chapter 143. The night was as dark as ink, leaving only a bright moon hanging in the sky. Itachi Uchiha was squatting on a telephone pole in the Uchiha clan. The moon was floating behind him. For some reason, Itachi's body and the moon were emitting a touch of blood. In other places of the Uchiha clan, root ninjas wearing umbu uniforms were shuttling through the streets and alleys of the Uchiha clan. From time to time, screams would break the silence. Itachi didn't say anything, he just told Root about the defensive layout of the Uchiha clan and the distribution of each strong Uchiha clan's home. Is my choice right or wrong? Itachi couldn't help but ask himself. Everyone living in the Uchiha clan was Itachi Uchiha's clansman. Every one of them had the same bloodline as Itachi. But because of Itachi Uchiha's decision, they all rushed to the Yellow Spring at this moment. Most of these people who were killed weren't actually ninjas, they were just Uchiha clansmen who lived under the protection of the Uchiha clan. But at this moment, they are going to lose their lives because of some high-level conspiracy that they didn't know about. At this moment, Itachi is not the poor person who will be weather-beaten in the future, he still has a lot of compassion in his heart. But Itachi knows that only by doing this can he protect his brother. Woodleaf people don't know, but Itachi's heart is very clear. As long as Sasuke can grow strong enough, his descendants will be influenced by the powerful Uchiha bloodline and become a new Uchiha clansman with Sharingan. Moreover, regardless of whether the Uchiha's rebellion will succeed or not, it will inevitably cause more families to be separated by life and death. One family crying is better than 1,000 families crying, one person dying is better than 100 people dying. Itachi may have been brainwashed by the 3 generations and Danzo's words, leading him to make such a decision. This was a decision he would regret for the rest of his life. On the outskirts of the Uchiha clan's land, Danzo was standing on a relatively high ground, watching his subordinates slaughter the Uchiha clan. Every scream represented that Danzo was about to obtain a bloodline that contained the unique bloodline of the Uchiha clan. Danzo's heart was filled with excitement. The legendary Sharingan, except for a part of it, will fall into his hands. Isn't such a thing enough to make Danzo excited? These eyes will be the best help for Danzo to reach the position of Hokage. Oh, your smile is unspeakably disgusting. A strange voice sounded behind Danzo, and a huge pitcher plant slowly floated up from the hard ground. Humph. Just do what you have to do. It's time for those old bastards of the Uchiha to appear. Danzo didn't pay attention to Zetsu's strange voice. For Danzo, these ninjas of the Akatsuki are just sharp blades that can be attracted by money and treasures. Just by paying a small part of the harvest of the Sharingan, he can attract a large number of ninjas with decent strength to help him contain the high-end combat power of the Uchiha clan. It would reduce the consumption of his subordinates and preserve his own strength. Why wouldn't he do it? I don't know what the 3 generations Hokage, who is called Ninja Hero by the world and has recently been changing his image to become a kind grandfather, will think when he knows that you actually cooperated with us, the organization that once drove the 9 Tails to attack the Woodleaf. Zetsu didn't care that he was being ignored by Danzo, and he was still talking non-stop. But Danzo glanced at him with extreme contempt and said, "You underestimate Yuan Fei too much. He was the one who defeated me and became Woodleaf's 3 generations Hokage. Do you think you can guess his scheming and charisma? Uchiha is a ticking time bomb for the Woodleaf. Although it is useful, it will harm others and himself. Yuan Fei just didn't want to dirty his hands, so he acquiesced to me borrowing your strength. In the end, Namikaze Watergate is still an unqualified Hokage. Everything is too simple, all enemies and friends can be covered up and betrayed by their own interests. So stupid to go out of the village and look for your Akatsuki and destroy you? If this Namikaze Watergate is a Hokage for 3 to 5 years, I can guarantee that he won't even have the slightest idea of doing such a thing. Namikaze Watergate is just an unqualified ninja. Looking at Danzo, Zetsu was stunned by the shamelessness of such a person. Sure enough, every politician has already buried their moral integrity and bottom line deep in the ground. They don't care about justice or evil, only care about profit or loss. Such a person. Living won't make the world more beautiful, but dying might make the world less noisy. However, a human's life was too short. After the death of a schemer, who knew how many more schemers would emerge with even more sinister intentions? Human, in Zetsu's mind, is such an inferior and meaningless race. They don't have the qualifications to live and enjoy this world. Such a person should be sent back to the furnace as soon as possible. Just when Zetsu was minding his own business, Uchiha's clan land also rose several huge auras. Danzo glanced at Zetsu, then said in a cruel and cold-blooded manner, "It's time for you to show me whether you are worthy of the reward I pay or not." Zetsu looked at Danzo, but didn't speak. Just like when he appeared, he slowly sank into the ground. At the same time, several ninjas wearing black robes with red clouds appeared in the dark night sky, revealing their figures. These ninjas were either in pairs or in groups of 3, they were the backup forces of Uchiha. In other words, the genius ninjas of various eras were separated from each other. Each one of them didn't seem to cherish the strength of an elite jonin, each one of them was fearless of death, fighting with the strength of Uchiha clan. Under such a fearless attack, the strength of the Uchiha clan's shinobi was greatly depleted. After that, a pitcher plant would slowly appear behind them. Their lives had been taken away without a sound. And those Akatsuki members who were covered in cuts and bruises also dragged their wounded bodies to dig out the eyes of the Uchiha clan's ninjas they just killed. This is the deal between Danzo and Akatsuki. As long as Akatsuki kills Uchiha clan's ninjas, then the eyes of these ninjas belong to Akatsuki. Chapter 144. With the cooperation of Root and Akatsuki, the Uchiha clan's strength was quickly eliminated. Soon, whether it was powerful ninjas or ordinary clansmen, they all turned into corpses lying on the ground. Perhaps only the blood that slowly flowed out from the wounds on their bodies and the eye sockets that had been dug out could prove that these people had once lived in this world. Itachi Uchiha's figure disappeared from the pole and appeared behind Danzo. "Stop, it's time for me to make my move." Itachi's eyes were cold, which was what Danzo wanted. Without feelings, he could abandon everything, as long as he followed the orders of his boss, it was enough. Danzo turned his head and looked at Itachi Uchiha's line of sight. Itachi Uchiha's younger brother, Sasuke, was slowly walking toward his home in the Uchiha clan. Because of the previous massacre, the air was filled with the smell of blood. There was no sound in the surroundings, it was empty and silent, like an old tomb with countless tombstones. Sasuke was just a child, but he could still feel the oppressive and heavy atmosphere. Therefore, he subconsciously quickened his pace, wanting to quickly return to his home, the place where he thought was the safest, where his brother and parents were. Itachi just looked at his brother coldly, then his figure flashed, and he already arrived at his home. His father, Uchiha clan's head, Uchiha Fugaku, and his wife, his mother, Uchiha Mikoto, were sitting peacefully in the living room, slowly waiting for his final outcome. When Itachi opened the door, Fugaku's pupils shrank. He guessed countless people who might betray the Uchiha clan and become Woodleaf spy. But he never thought that the person who betrayed the Uchiha was actually his eldest son, Uchiha Itachi, whom he valued the most and gave the most expectations to. "Itachi, I really didn't expect that the person who came to send me and your mother on our last journey would be you." Originally, Uchiha Mikoto was ready to go to hell with her husband and 2 children. For Mikoto, whether it was the human world or hell, as long as she could be with her family, she had nothing to fear. But Itachi's appearance instantly broke Mikoto's mental state. Since Itachi betrayed the Uchiha clan, then doesn't it mean that he can live? What about Sasuke? Would his youngest son be able to live on with him as well? Itachi. Sasuke, Mikoto still couldn't control the impulse in her heart. The desire to let her 2 children live on was like a clump of wild grass, quickly spreading throughout her mind. Although Itachi didn't directly tell her about Sasuke's, he still gave his mother a reassuring look. Mikoto understood her child, just like she understood herself. Since Itachi's eyes, she didn't say anything more. Father, you've made the worst decision possible. Your decision is the root cause of the Uchiha clan's destruction. Itachi turned his head and looked at his father. This was the most harsh words that the always humble and polite Itachi said to his father. Itachi, there are some things that you can't really understand. I won't defend my actions, nor will I deny my mistakes. Winner takes all, this world has always been like this. Now, since you can use my and your mother's life in exchange for yours and Sasuke's life, then go ahead and make your move. I'm sorry. All these years, I've only cared about the identity of the Uchiha family. But I haven't been a qualified father and husband. I hope you can make it up to your mother in hell. Uchiha Fugaku's usual stern and harsh attitude changed, the cold and stiff face in Itachi's mind became soft at this moment. Father, although it was still a bit estranged, Itachi's mood was completely different. It turned out that his father also had such a side to him. At this moment, Sasuke wasn't far from his home. If he wanted to protect his brother, he had to take his parents' lives before he came back. Under the torment, Itachi still raised the sword in his hand and was about to cut his mother. Shwa! The feeling of flesh being cut and warm blood flowing in all directions did not appear. Instead, there was the sound of metal clashing. Just like that, a pitch-black 5-foot-long sword blocked the saber that was about to slash at his mother. Do you want your parents to live? Do you hate Danzo? The person who came was Nangongja, who had removed his disguise. When the Uchiha clan was wiped out by Root and Akatsuki, Nangongja was already at the scene. After many observations, Nangongja found that these Root and Akatsuki ninjas always intentionally or unintentionally skipped the Uchiha clan's house when they were slaughtering the Uchiha clan. So, he sneaked into Uchiha Fugaku's house, wanting to see the further development of things. So, when Itachi was about to kill his mother, he stopped him. Mixed with a part of psychic secret technique, Itachi couldn't help but start to think. His parents, don't he want them to live? The answer was naturally impossible, but his father was the leader of the rebellion against Woodleaf, and the head of the Uchiha clan. Even if Itachi wanted to cover up for him, he couldn't do it at all, right? But Itachi still understood in his heart, as long as there was a slight chance for his parents to escape, Itachi would never miss it. As for whether he hated Danzo, it was like a joke. He was the one who had threatened his own younger brother and forced him to his current situation step by step. Itachi's hatred for Danzo is absolute and can't be ignored. I think, I hate him too. Itachi didn't know what was going on with him, but he subconsciously said what was in his heart. I can help you. I can help you save your parents' lives, and I can also help you take revenge on Danzo. In the end, Nangongja still took out his chip. When Itachi heard Nangongja's words, he instantly woke up. In the past few days, Itachi was used by Danzo and 3 generations. Now, Nangongja came to his door, which made Itachi's delicate nerves instantly tense. Chapter 145. Nangongja saw Itachi's attitude clearly. After all, Itachi was just a kid who graduated from the ninja academy not long ago. Although he usually looked mature and steady, some things still need time to accumulate slowly. Are you afraid that I will use you? Nangongja directly brought the topic to the light. To be honest, even if I say that I don't want to use you, neither you nor I will believe it. I am indeed using you, but aren't we also using each other? You get benefits, I also get benefits. As long as we understand this, we have a basis for cooperation. Itachi listened to Nangongja's words, and he couldn't help but agree. For a long time, Itachi hated using others to gain his own benefits. But recently, everything had started to force Itachi to violate his principles bit by bit. As Nangongja said, although he was used by the 3 generations and Danzo, But didn't he also achieve his own goals? Although it seems that slaughtering the Uchiha clan and saving Uchiha Sasuke is a big loss. But this kind of thing is just like drinking water. Being able to save his brother who might have lost his life in this massacre is already a gain for Itachi. Deal. What are you going to do? Whether it was Uchiha Fugaku or Uchiha Mikoto, they didn't speak at this moment. Instead, they put their fate in the hands of their children, in the hands of Itachi Uchiha. I will give your parents a kind of pill. It can greatly reduce the body's vitality, and make the body fall into a semi-dormant state. In this state, even if they receive a fatal injury, it will last for a long time. You can kill your parents in order to deceive Danzo, but you must find a way to make your parents not lose their eyes, and make sure that they are in good health. In this way, I can secretly take them away and treat them to remove the dormant state. Itachi didn't know if the pills provided by Nangongja were as miraculous as he claimed, but his parents were already doomed. Now that there was such an opportunity to save their lives, both Itachi and Uchiha Fugaku felt that it was worth a try. If that's the case, then let's do it. Sasuke is almost home, and the matter here needs to be solved as soon as possible, otherwise Danzo will be suspicious. Nangongja nodded and took out 2 brown pills the size of a fingertip from his ninja tool bag and placed them in the hands of Uchiha Fugaku and his wife. After taking this pill, you will immediately enter a state of suspended animation. It was as if he had fallen into a deep sleep and could not feel all the sensations in his body. However, this state cannot be maintained for too long, or it will lead to your immediate death. So, Nangongja looked at Itachi and then said, everything needs to be done quickly. Fugaku and his wife, as well as Itachi, nodded, and then Fugaku and his wife each took a pill, and instantly lost all their senses and fell to the ground. All their physical characteristics became extremely weak, and it was impossible to detect them. Let's finish them off, Nangongja said to Itachi Uchiha, and Itachi also raised the Zanpakuto in his hand and slashed his parents without hesitation. The huge wound slowly oozed blood, and the strange thing was that it was such a big wound, but there was very little blood flowing out. Sui Ran looked very decisive, and there was no emotional fluctuation at all. However, the original pair of dark eyes had turned red at this moment. It was the Uchiha clan's Kekkai Genkai, Sharingan. The tomo in the eyes was spinning quickly, and the 3 tomo and the pupil were about to connect into a line. Itachi's heart was full of memories of himself and his parents. It was obviously such an ordinary memory, but at this moment, it became so clear, so full of happiness. But now, there was nothing. Itachi's heart was filled with extraordinary hatred. The hatred for his father was because he wanted to fight for power and profit, and pushed his family into the abyss of destruction. The hatred for Danzo was because he coveted the Uchiha clan's Kekkai Genkai, Sharingan, and forced him to push his family step by step to this point. But the hatred for himself. He could have fought for his family and fought with the root ninjas to defend his family, but he couldn't bear to see more people die, so he chose to betray his family. Hatred. He hated the world for being unfair, and he hated himself for being weak. If he could be stronger, he would be able to face all threats. Then how could he make such a choice? His parents lying on the ground, and the blood slowly flowing out of their wounds was like a sharp knife stabbing his head. Although he took the pill given by Nangongja, Itachi didn't know whether his parents could wake up smoothly, but under the influence of his slightly extreme mood, his heart was filled with all kinds of pessimistic thoughts. 2 tears of blood slowly flowed from Itachi's eyes, and the 3 tomo in the Sharingan had now turned into a huge triangular windmill. This is the evolved form of the Uchiha clan's Sharingan, Mangekyo Sharingan. Then I'll leave the rest to you. Nangongja walked to Itachi's side and patted his shoulder with his hand. At this moment, Itachi's temperament has changed greatly, the original sadness and anger at this moment quietly disappeared. Only extreme indifference and coldness were left, as if Itachi had frozen his heart and soul. Don't worry, since I made a deal with you, I will naturally do it. You just need to be ready to accept my parents. Itachi's tone was a bit cold, but he still didn't get confused by all kinds of emotions, and his words were still somewhat organized. Oni-san. Father Sama. Mom. Little Sasuke's shout came from outside the door, and glanced at Nangongja. Nangongja immediately hid his figure. Brother. Brother, Sasuke opened his door, and although he still saw his brother and parents, it wasn't what he wanted to see. At this moment, Itachi was holding a bleeding Zanpakuto, and the scarlet blood made the Zanpakuto's blade even colder. His father and mother both had a hideous wound on their chests. All of this was telling a cruel story to Sasuke. You're tuning into the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.